This is the Patriots Catch-22 podcast with Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
I'm Evan Lazar. Evan Lazar. Hello, everybody.
Nailed it. Joined as always by our
Barth. That's a fit. That's a match.
No risk it, no biscuit.
22.
Here is Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
Dylan is in Florida. What's up, Dylan?
22.
Dylan, sorry I left you on hold for a while. Call back in, Dylan, and we'll get you on. I'm assuming Patty's still here. What's up, Patty?
Yeah, I know Patty's still here.
Did we speak too soon?
Patty.
Not Patty,
Not
too.
Patty.
Oh, Morel, that one hurts. That one hurts.
22.
That was good. Oh, man. You always feel like you can count on people like Patty. He did call back in, so I don't want to throw him under the bus too much. You did call back in, Patty, and he's on the line right now.
There you go, right away.
There you go. Evan Lazar, Alex Barth, Patriots Catch-22 here with you for the next couple of hours. Hopefully a less eventful couple of hours than last week.
Yeah, I know we might have some new people tuning in. If you are,
Sorry.
definitely stick around, but it might not be what you think. Just a heads up.
Oh, man. All right. Hey, Patriots fans, if you want to see Toyota's best offers, including those not seen on TV, go to buytoyota.com. It's Toyota's official website for deals from the official vehicle of the New England Patriots. Toyota, let's go places, and easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. We can joke about it now, I feel like, but I don't want to talk too much about it. But like you said, that's not even what this show is about. Like, that's the part that makes me regret it as much as anything, is like we are an X's and O's football junkies type of show, and we usually leave that kind of stuff to the frankly, your station and other places that do that kind of thing. And in the one time that I dipped my toes into that water, it totally backfired. So good job by me. So now I've acknowledged it. Okay. All right. Now we acknowledge it. The other thing that that's more important than that is Drake Maye. Finally, we get to see Drake Maye as the Patriots starting quarterback this week on Sunday against the Texans. Alex, there's a lot to unpack about this because the timing of it is a big story.
Yeah.
How Drake Maye looks on Sunday is a big story. The matchup is a big story. I want to start it here, and based off of last week, I don't always carry the team's water, okay? But the biggest thing that I want to say about this, to me, in terms of the timing, I feel as though there's a lot of conversations, Alex, about how this was done hastily, or they kind of deviated from the plan here because it did seem like they wanted him to sit and watch for a while before getting him in there. But I want to bring hard evidence to the show today about this, because this is just my opinion, and I want to preface it that way, that this is just my opinion, that I don't feel as though that this was knee-jerk or a pivot away from the plan per se. The plan might have changed or might have been altered along the way, and there were two big pieces of that. And Alex Van Pelt today, I think, broke it down pretty bluntly of those two pieces. One, the Patriots offense that is 31st in the league in scoring. Let's also not forget the Miami Dolphins, who are 32nd, don't have their quarterback. So really the Patriots are the worst offense in the NFL in terms of scoring. They're the worst offense in the NFL in terms of...
Dolphins also just outscored them head-to-head.
Yeah. They're the worst offense in football in terms of passing yards at 119 per game. They have yet to throw for over 150 yards in a game. That's a big part of it. The other part of it is what Drake Maye has been doing behind the scenes at practice. And that we've heard tangible evidence even before they made this decision about that. So I wanted to read a couple of quotes from you. These were from September 27th. This was 2 weeks ago when we spoke to the Patriots defensive assistant coaches. I don't know if it was the day before or the same day. Gerard Mayo had a press conference where he was asked about Drake Maye's progress and was really glowing with his praise of it. He was like, it's really gotten a lot better last couple weeks and month or so. So here was Drew Wilkins, the Patriots outside linebackers coach. He has such a good understanding. This is about Drake Maye. He has such a good understanding of different schemes and what people are doing for a rookie in this league. It's like he's been around a long time and seen a lot of offenses, seen a lot of quarterbacks. I think he is unique in that way. Like, that's not something that's very common in the league. That's a guy that's conscientious. He wants to know about a team's protection rules for the scout team, things like that. Like, these are rare traits. Mike Pellegrino, who's been around the Patriots, he pointed to a specific throw in practice that really stood out to me. I remember one specifically that I went the next day and was like, I hate you. That was a great throw. He's doing a good job so far. He stuck one in between tight coverage on a new call that we had a couple of weeks ago. It was like, I really wish he hadn't made that throw, but you did. My point of reading these quotes is that this was bubbling behind the scenes that Drake Maye was making some real strides in practice and starting to push the Patriots for playing time. So when you couple that with the fact that he also was watching an offense that was stagnant, that was sputtering, that was going nowhere, you add those two things together, and I don't think that this was a knee-jerk reaction. I don't think this was a PR move. I don't think it was anything nefarious like that. I truly believe that Drake Maye pushed the coaches to this point. He broke through the door, right? And part of that is because of what's going on with the offense with Jacoby Brissett. But what I was trying to get at last week, and before we went off the rails a little bit, eventually when those types of things are happening, when what's happening on Sundays is happening, and then what's happening behind the scenes, based off of what we were being told by the coaches and things like that, then eventually it's not going to pass the sniff test in the locker room, right? Where they're 1-4, they've lost 4 in a row, they can't score any points offensively, and Drake Maye is making these strides behind the scenes. Eventually the rookie has got to play. So is it maybe a couple of weeks earlier? Like I remember, Burt Breer, other people have thrown out November was kind of more in their purview of when this might happen, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, maybe a week or two early. But at the same time, this was coming. I don't think that this was like, we are sitting him from the whole year. Oh, whoa, now we're 1-4 and our offense stinks. Now we're making this change.
Well, I'll give you even a piece of evidence that suggests maybe this is a little later than they wanted to do it. And this came out Thursday right after our show. Ian Rappaport on NFL Network, quote, so he had said, the Patriots are going to start Jacoby Brissett this week against the Dolphins. That said, it is still clear to some point that Drake Maye is going to play. It just got a little complicated this week. This is talking about last week.
Yeah.
David Andrews is out for the season with a shoulder injury. They want, when Drake Maye is out there, to put him in a position to succeed. They want to make sure that he is not only ready, but someone who can hit the ground running and not have his growth stunted by a team around him offensively that really has struggled a little bit. That, to me, sounds like they maybe wanted to start him last week.
Yeah.
But then you lose David Andrews, and it's, well, we have no idea what we're going to get at center, and we can't subject the kid to that. Which, by the way, right call.
Yeah.
Right call if that was the case. But, I kind of read that last week and was like, oh, so they're ready. They're just waiting on the line. And last week we'll talk about what the line was, but it was, again, the word I keep using is better. I don't know that it was good, but it was better. And more importantly, everybody got out of that game healthy. And it seems like they're going to be able to start the same 5 for the second week in a row for the first time this season. And not just the same 5. It's going to be the first time they start the same tackle combination back-to-back weeks this year. So, when you put that together, again, is it a week or two too early? Maybe. We walked out of the stadium Sunday night, and I said to you, I don't know that he needs to play against Houston, but you got to start the ramp-up period this week at the very least.
Yeah.
And if that means Jacksonville, if that means the Jets, whatever. But, yeah, I don't think this was is it sooner than maybe they thought it was back in, July or August? Maybe.
Yeah.
But I do think that, like you said, Maye was putting the pressure on to make the change.
Yeah, the two things that I've heard a lot about since this move was made are either they went away from the plan, or they didn't have a plan and they're just flying by the seat of their pants, or the Texans, you can't play them against the Texans.
Yeah.
This defense is too good. This is a bad matchup. Can't play them against the Texans. To the first point about the plan, I don't think the plan was ever set in stone. We are going to sit him the whole year, or his window is week 8 and on, just the second half of the season. We're not going to play him sooner than that. And look, they've held the plan really close to the vest. I don't know at all exactly what the plan was, but when they talked about it, it sounded to me more like it was football benchmarks. Like, was
Right.
he handling blitzes? Was he getting them in and out of the plays? Was he getting them in and out of the huddle? Was he, going through his reads and making the right decisions in practice? Like,
And I think, too, benchmarks with the team.
Right.
Like, where's the offensive line at? Who's healthy?
Yeah.
Who's playing well? So I'm with you. You can't put a week to that.
It didn't feel to me like the plan was exactly like they had put a week to it or a time frame
Right.
to it. It felt to me more like when he clears these hurdles, when he checks off these boxes, we'll know that he's ready to play. And at this point, we will see what it looks like on Sunday, but we have to trust the coaches that he's ready. Like, they're the ones that are getting paid to do this. They're the ones that are seeing him every single day. We have to trust the coaches for now. Now on Sunday, if he plays poorly and it's clear that he's in over his head and he wasn't ready, I'm not going to come here and kill the kid in his first career start. But we'll be honest about it. We'll say, maybe it was a little premature.
Well, I'll say this, and I want this take on the record before anything happens. And
Yeah.
it's on the record. It's very much on the record.
yeah,
Don't let this take get you too riled up, because I know it does. Once Drake Maye's in,
I knew that was coming.
Once Drake Maye's in, he's in.
Yeah,
It's like, this is it.
You're right. This was the whole start of the whole thing. So yeah, go ahead.
That's what I said. The take you had before that was just nonsense. But that take won't happen now.
Yeah.
Once Drake Maye's in, he's in.
Yeah.
Pending injury, obviously, if he gets hurt. But, like, you're not in a week and 2 weeks, we were wrong. He's not ready. We're going
Sure.
back to Jacoby Brissett. Like, you can't do that. You create a worse situation. So, and we can talk about it more later, Evan. I kind of suggested to you a little game we can play with this.
Yeah.
But, and as it relates to his first start, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of things here, but my expectations are not super high.
yeah,
And that's not anything about Drake Maye, the prospect. That's not anything about the draft pick. It's just, you look around the league. Caleb Williams did not start well.
yeah.
Jaden Daniels was fine in his first two starts. It was fine,
Yeah.
but he was not spectacular by any means. Bo Nix was not. I'll even throw Bo Nix in here, and you know
Yeah.
how much that kills me. Bo Nix,
Ferris Bueller.
who's started playing better, was not good in his first couple starts. You look at, early starts guys have had the last years. Every once in a while, you have a rookie quarterback that just, boom, just
Yeah.
like arrives on the scene and hits it.
Yeah.
But, there's going to be growing pains. It doesn't mean it's going to be all bad. But, again, we'll get to it later, kind of comparing him to some past Patriots
Yeah.
debuts. But, like, I fully expect to come in here next week having to sort through a lot with him.
Yeah. The second thing that I mentioned, and then I want to talk about the real X's and O's in football of it. The second thing that I mentioned was picking the Texans weak. Like, this defense that is third in the league in DVOA, number one in pressure rate, excellent pass defense that's coming in with two edge rushers in Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter that are giving everybody fits. There's no doubt about it that this is a tough matchup. This is a, hey, rookie, welcome to the NFL type of situation. This is throwing him into the fire a little bit. But with that being said, we were all in agreement. I shouldn't say we were all in agreement. I don't think that if he had started his last week against Miami, there would be quite the uproar. And I also don't think that there would be quite the uproar if he started next week in London against Jacksonville, because everybody would say those are two reeling teams or two
Right.
bad teams, two bad defenses. So basically, and I tweeted this out earlier, like, what we're getting at is that we think that one game is going to ruin Drake Maye. Like, he's going to get out there against Houston, and if he goes 9 for 30 like Josh Allen did last week against this defense, that all of a sudden his entire career is going to be derailed. And my response to that, and maybe that's an exaggeration of what people are saying, but that's the crux, right? And my response to that would just be, in 2 to 3 years from now,
Yeah.
when we're looking back on all this, if Drake Maye, let's say, success or fails, right?
Yeah.
Like, whatever happens, boom or bust, are we going to look back on it and say, well, if they had just like waited 2 more weeks his rookie season, he would have been good, right? Like, or if we had just waited, they could have started him week 1 his rookie year, and maybe they would have been a Super Bowl
Yeah.
team. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
It's not going to matter in the grand scheme of things in 2 years.
I mean, it can, because objectively it doesn't matter when you start him, right? But it's not going to be about the opponent. It's
Yeah.
going to be, was he ready when they put him in. Look, I don't love the Texans as a landing spot. But like you said, I don't love the Jaguars because it's in London. The Jets bring, that's not exactly an easy defense either. Then you got to go on the road. There's some people who think the first start should be at home. Like, you're going to be able to pick a problem with it wherever. I said back in May, there was only one game that I didn't want to be his first start, and that was San Francisco.
Yeah.
Well, there were two. It was the first Jets game, short week, but it was never going to be that anyway.
Right.
And then San Francisco. So is it the best landing spot? No. Is there a good landing spot? Not necessarily. And it's definitely not the worst possible landing spot. I would so much rather him start in his spot than have to go into San Francisco against that team that was pissed off coming off a bad loss. And, I mean, we saw what that pass rush did in that game, right? With tackles out of position.
Yeah.
It could be a lot worse, I guess, is my point. It's not, you don't have to love it, but I don't think it's not disqualifying to start him in this spot.
Yeah, I just think it's a little bit I think the whole reaction to this is a little nitpicky, and I get it. Drake Maye is a first-time head coach. He's going to be scrutinized by what he does. But there was so many people before this decision was made. Every Monday, every week on this show, for the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, that we just came in here on this show. I'll just talk about our show for the first 4 weeks. And just went scorched earth on the offense. It was at times an unwatchable product offensively. They couldn't pass the ball. I was on AVP. I was on Jacoby. We were on the line. Like all these things, and then they do something that should improve the offense and should be exciting for the offense and for the fan base and for all of it. And then now that's not the right move. Right? So, like, they were in a no-win situation. If they kept on playing Brissett and the offense kept looking like this, definition of insanity, like, why would it change miraculously that all of a sudden they had a viable NFL offense with the personnel that they were rolling out there? If they kept on doing that and they kept on losing, then Drake Maye and this whole regime would get killed for doing that. And now they're getting killed for playing Drake Maye.
And I think that game showed them, too, maybe part of it, like, they got decent offensive line play. And that didn't fix enough.
Yeah.
And so maybe that also is part of the impetus of, all right, we actually had, I thought that game was a decent quarterback environment.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it wasn't perfect, but I thought there were more opportunities there for Brissett than there had been in past games. He still didn't capitalize on them.
Yeah. So the other point I wanted to make, just to kind of move forward here from my soapbox, is just about where we go from here with Drake Maye as the quarterback. And to me, this is the clock starts ticking right now on Alex Van Pelt and the coaching staff, because you no longer have the excuse of, well, we're limited.
Right.
We're limited at quarterback. We're limited at offensive line. We don't really have all the full deck. Nope. Like, this is your guy. This is your guy moving forward. He is under center now. He is playing. He's in the cockpit. Like, this is your quarterback. So when I look at Van Pelt specifically, I really need to see something from Van Pelt on Sunday, because you cannot tell me that him and McAdoo and this whole staff, since the Patriots put the card in or whatever, it's a phone call now. I think it's a pick line, right? On the draft night.
Wait, they don't do the physical card anymore?
I don't think so.
It's kind of a bummer.
They do with the commissioner. So I think. Anyways, when they made the pick on, what was it, April 26th or April 27th or something like that, any offensive coach is immediately thinking of 100 different things that we can do with this guy, right? Like, what's the scheme? Look at Cliff Kingsbury in Washington. Immediately I'm sure he's thinking, let's install as many LSU concepts as we can. Like, what's Jaden going to want to run? What's he comfortable with? And they're building an offense, a playbook around the quarterback and around the new quarterback. The same should be going on right now with the Patriots. Like, what is Drake Maye's favorite concepts, or what's the type of offense he wants to run? What are the bells and whistles we want to put into that offense? And now I really think that we start to truly evaluate the offensive coaching. I understand and maybe you're probably more the situational football guy than I am. He's been under fire about some of the situational play calls, end of the first half last week, things like that. But I'm more talking, as I normally do, about the actual play design, X's and O's of it. I think right now one of the things that has been one of my pet peeves about the Van Pelt offense is the lack of scheme-related conflict that he puts in the defense. So what is he doing to help his players execute the plays? They are 31st in the league in play action rate right now. Second to last, 31st in the league. Now, you could sit there and say, well, they don't have the line and they don't have the blocking to hold up, and that's why they're not running. Play action is one of the easiest ways to help receivers create separation and get open down the field. If you don't have great receivers, run play action. Like, run some of these bells and whistles to help them out. They are, and I know this has been a big topic, they're 27th in the league in motion at the snap, right? 27th, towards the bottom of the league in that statistic. They are third in the league in spread formation rate. So right now they are 4-5 wide. They're spreading the field, and they're running a bunch of stagnant isolation routes. Like, nobody's moving at the snap. There's no stacks. There's no bunches. It's just four guys across the formation at the receiver spots run a route, right? If he's going to get Drake Maye going and they're going to get this offense going, and a lot of this falls on Van Pelt too. And I want to give you one example of this from Sunday. There was a play in Sunday's game, 3rd and 8, third quarter, and all they're getting is blitz man on third down. Everybody's bringing man pressure on third down. It's what the book that is out on the Patriots. Play man-to-man coverage, blitz the quarterback to overwhelm the offensive line. They don't have the quarterback that makes the decisions. They don't have the receivers to get the separation. So what does Van Pelt call? He calls all curls. There's 4 guys that go into the pattern, and they're all running curls. There's no motion. There's no picks. There's no rubs. There's no in-cut, nothing. Just run to the sticks and turn around, and hopefully the ball will get to you. So what ends up happening is, they blitz. They get some pressure on Brissett. He throws low to Austin Hooper over the middle in the dirt. Field goal, right? That's a big swing in the game. That's the difference between 14-3 and 10-3 in that football game. So you have guys like Pop Douglas. You have a guy like running backs out of the backfield that can create some separation out of the backfield against man-to-man. Where is the bells and whistles? Like, where are the picks? Where are the rubs? Where are the motions into the stacks and the bunches? Snap the football. Get them some free releases. Get them some separation down the field. There's not enough of that right now in this offense. And this is the last thing that I would say. It's on him to adapt the offense to Drake Maye. If Drake Maye is not comfortable in an NFL game right now to run a ton of under center, then they need to find an adaptation. Like, they need to adapt to that, whether it's pistol, whether it's just gun run, whatever the case may be. You can't just jam a square hole into a round peg because your offense is an under center offense.
You can't jam a hole into a peg.
So
it's not peg into a hole.
Peg into a hole.
Yeah. You said hole into a peg.
Square peg, round hole.
Yeah.
There you go.
Were you just like the worst at preschool?
What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on.
Just making sure. You took literally the whole toy and hitting the one piece instead of the other way around.
I like how you ended my rant with that. If he doesn't want to be under center, then adapt. Like, find a different way to run your run game. If they run pistol, I've already said this to you.
Yeah.
If they put Drake Maye in the pistol on Sunday, it's going to be pants off in the press box for me. I'm going to be pumped. Like, yes, finally, with some innovation. Like, we did something new. We did something different. We did something to adapt to our players. That's a big thing for me right now, more so than all this other drama about is it the right time or anything like that. What does Van Pelt do now that he has the Ferrari out of the garage?
Yeah, and this goes to a bigger point for me, which is like the quarterback change isn't just about Drake Maye. It's Drake Maye. We're going to see what he can do, right? And that's obviously something to focus on. But the other thing is like there's other guys that are now in the spotlight more, either because they're crucial to Maye's success, or also it's just like, all right, so Drake Maye's the future, right? This is who you're ideally building around. Is there anybody on this current team? I think there's a couple guys who at least are in the conversation. I know people roll their eyes at this, but who on the current team are you building is going to stay here and build with them, right? And So I wrote about this on 985sportshub.com. A guy like Pop Douglas, right?
Yeah.
What's their chemistry look like? Where are they at together? But I think the person most impacted by this, who's not Drake Maye or Jacoby Brissett, is Alex Van Pelt.
Yeah.
And like you said, did the offense look great over the first 5 weeks? No, but I don't really care about whether or not Alex Van Pelt can design an offense for Jacoby Brissett.
Right.
It's not relevant
Yeah.
in the long term. I do care very much what his offense for Drake Maye looks like. And even if Drake Maye's playing well, if it looks like the offense, and you got into a ton of schematic stuff there, the pistol stuff is the big one for me as well. But even if Drake Maye's playing relatively well, but we're just the offense doesn't make sense. It's kind of holding them back. Can these two coexist? Because if they can't, the organization's not moving on from the 3rd overall pick.
Right.
Right? So I thought you put it in a good way. Alex Van Pelt on the clock. His future won't be decided this Sunday.
Sure.
But there is an element of now, all right, this guy's the future of the franchise. Can you make it work with him? Because if you can't, we need to find somebody else who can.
100%. I've been pretty hard on Van Pelt, as you know, on this show. I just don't feel like he's done enough schematically to make this offense viable. I mentioned all the play action, the lack of motion, the lack of bunches and picks and things. If you're getting a ton of man coverage, where are the pick plays? Where are the in cuts? Right? Where are the crossers? Those are man coverage beaters. How many years? The Patriots have always been a pretty heavy man coverage defense in the Belichick era. How often did we see teams counter that with picks and slants and crossers over the middle of the field? Right. Because that's if you have man-to-man and you run crossing routes over the middle of the field that intersect and those men run into each other, now you're going to have open receivers all over the field. The 2018 AFC Championship game, I'll never forget it. The second half, remember how Andy Reid just started calling pick plays left and right, and the Patriots were pissed about it. They thought they were illegal, right? Remember, they thought they were too far down the field. But that was how the Chiefs got their offense going in that game, was that Reid started to call pick plays at the line of scrimmage to get those guys off man coverage. If you're seeing a ton of man coverage like that, those are your answers. They need more of those schematic answers now. They need more layers and more conflict in their concepts from the route running standpoint. If they start doing that kind of stuff, I am willing to give Alex Van Pelt a clean slate here. You had... as much as we could say the same for Jacoby, you had a pretty tough hand dealt to you in the first 5 weeks of the season. Right. You did not have great personnel on the field. That's just a fact. So I'm willing to wipe the slate clean with him, start fresh this week. But, we're talking a lot about pistol and route concepts and things like that. I'm not advocating to turn Drake Maye into Lamar Jackson, okay? But in certain situations, am I advocating for them to run some zone read, some quarterback option, some design quarterback run? Absolutely. We saw it in the preseason against Philadelphia that he walked one in off the goal line on a zone read play where, he can do that. He can take the edge if there's nobody there to set it on the defensive side of the ball. If it's fourth quarter and you're 4th and 1 for the game, I'm absolutely using his legs as a factor in playing 11 on 11. Don't take that away from him. Right. Don't take that away. So I'm not saying that they have to run him 10, 15 times. Don't do that either. I know all of us are a little bit nervous and a little anxious about him getting injured. So don't.
He might be safer running than in the pocket, but
he might be. But if you're down by the goal line and you're just trying to punch it in, even if it's just to hold the backside because he's a threat with his legs to keep it, you have to do certain things like that. They have run some RPO stuff with him when he gets to play. Those are the types of things that I want to continue to see with this offense moving forward. And the last thing I wanted to do before we'll do 3 up, 3 down a little bit earlier today because it's weird. We're not going to do a whole dissection of the game, I feel like, because the quarterback just changed.
Right.
But the last thing I wanted to talk about with this whole thing is the Jacoby Brissett of it all. All the things I just said about Van Pelt are fair things to say about Jacoby. He did not have the best hand. He did not have great offensive line play. Frankly, he had poor offensive line play. He doesn't have all-star receivers out there yet. Maybe Jalen Polk and Pop Douglas turn into that, but they're not there yet. I think that was a big difference that I overlooked a little bit with his Cleveland tape a couple of years ago. He's got Amari Cooper and he's got David Njoku. Like, those are two Pro Bowl caliber receivers that he has. He doesn't have that here. Maybe Hunter Henry is like close to Njoku, but they do not have an Amari Cooper from 2 years ago, especially. So he wasn't dealt the fairest of hands either. With that being said, I do feel as though this benching based off of the tape, and I think everybody can see it based off of the production, was justifiable. Like, I do think you can sit there and say, especially on Sunday, the last couple Sundays, that it just hasn't been good enough from the quarterback position.
Yeah, I thought he was getting too much flack at the start of the season, but he got sped up, and that's not necessarily his fault. But the last couple weeks, like, it just he was seeing ghosts out there. He was a little shell shocked. Now, hopefully, that same thing doesn't happen to Drake Maye. We'll have to see. But was a professional through it all. Still is. He was talking about it today in the locker room, and he said Drake Maye asked him how he's doing. He said, "If you're worried about me, you're focused on the wrong thing." Wants nothing best for the kid. He's clearly frustrated, but he's not gonna take it out on Drake Maye. He's not going to blame Drake Maye, nor should he. He gets, I've always been a fan of his. I still am. I thought he handled himself well, but it was time.
Yeah. So a couple of plays I wanted to point to specifically where this is just my opinion, but it felt like these were maybe some of the sticking points for Gerard Mayo and his coaching staff with making this change from a Brissett perspective. So when you're dealing with an offense that really doesn't create a ton of opportunities in a game, the ones that you miss get exacerbated, right? Those are really big key plays in the game. So the couple of the big ones to me, he missed Jalen Polk 3 times on third down. You had him 3 times on third down, missed them all 3 times. You had the corner out early on in the game. There's pressure on him. He gets hit as he is throwing, but the ball is not good enough. Not a catchable throw. He missed him on an out later on in the game in the second half, holding the football. Didn't see it quick enough. Didn't throw it fast enough. Missed him there. AVP mentioned today in his press conference a third down play right before the half where they had an open receiver and they didn't find him. That was Polk again. That was open on the left sideline. He opened Brissett open to the right side. Didn't see him on the left-hand side open. The deep shot to Pop Douglas off play action.
Yep.
They finally dial up a shot off play action where they get what they want. Like, they get the coverage. They get the route against the coverage. They get it blocked. Like, everything is designed and executed perfectly. Quarterback misses the throw. That was a big one to me. And then there's a couple of plays to Ramondre. And I know I'm like kind of picking on Brissett a little bit, but there was a couple of plays on Ramondre where he threw the ball in the flat where it didn't really make sense that the ball was going there. There was one play in particular, and after it happened on the sideline, you can see it on the TV copy, Gerard Mayo goes over to Alex Van Pelt, puts his hand over his mouth, and says something to Alex Van Pelt. The throw was, they motioned Hunter Henry at the snap. They shifted him from one side of the formation to the other side. He got followed by a defender. When you get followed by the defender, that usually signals it's man-to-man coverage, right? Because the guy's traveling with Hunter Henry. So Jacoby ID'd man-to-man coverage pre-snap. So he thought, I'm going to throw this ball in the flat to Ramondre. He's going to have one guy to miss, and he's make miss, and he's going to get the first down. Fair, because Ramondre's been doing that all year. Just make one guy miss, pick up 5 or 6 yards, pick up the first down.
James White special.
Correct. When the ball is snapped, the defense, and kudos to Miami, they got one on Brissett here. The defense falls into zone, so they disguised that they were in zone. They drop into zone coverage. He throws the ball to Ramondre anyway in the flat, and like 3 guys are on Ramondre, within a split second, and it's a negative 1 yard gain there first to punt. If he had just read out the progression post snap, ID'd that it wasn't man-to-man like he thought. Like, when you have to confirm. You can't just go off of your pre-snap, instincts. You have to then confirm post-snap that this is man-to-man or zone. So if he had confirmed post-snap that it was zone coverage and not man, then he has Hunter Henry, whose man traveled with him and then dropped into zone. He's got Hunter Henry. Nobody covers Hunter Henry in the left flat. He's all by his lonesome for a first down and probably a big play. So those types of plays, we talked about this after the Jets game. Those types of plays just felt like they were happening a little too often with Brissett, where you had this veteran quarterback that was supposed to be winning mentally, that was supposed to be managing games, that was supposed to be hitting the layups and like giving you the easy conversions within the offense, and he just wasn't doing enough of that. I don't think it was that he didn't, throw a perfect ball to Jalen Polk in the back of the end zone, or he didn't lead a game-winning drive with 30 seconds to go in the game at the end of the fourth quarter. To me, it was, are we even hitting the layups?
Right.
In this offense? And the answer too often a little bit was no. And that's, I do think that had a hand in where we are right now.
Yeah.
All right. 3 up, 3 down. We'll take some phone calls as well. And I will talk we got plenty of emails and everything about Drake Maye and everything going on, as you can expect. So I'll start with you, Alex. 3 up, 3 down. Who's your first up from the game on Sunday?
My first up. No, that's my shopping list. There it is. My first
Did
up.
you rank it?
I did not. I don't.
Did you tier it?
I do it in the order that, like, I know when I'm going through the grocery store, like, okay, well, first off, I go to vegetables. I know some people are probably surprised that I go to vegetables. I'm a salad guy. I like salads. Then it's.
Are you like one of those salad guys though, where it's like just lettuce and dressing, or do you do some extras?
If I'm like, all right, I just need to eat quick, like
Yeah.
I'll do that. But like last night, for instance, lettuce, cucumber, carrot, onion, grilled some chicken up, threw the chicken in there.
Oh, there! Look at you.
I make my own dressing because it's healthier.
Look at you.
So
I'm impressed.
yeah, I'm a big salad guy. But,
You're a little emerald in the kitchen.
I would put that salad on the up list. That was actually good. Like, it was like 10:30. I was writing all night, and I'm like, I just got to make this, and it came out better than I thought. Anyway, number one up, shocker for me, Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Again on Tyreek Hill, just really should have had 2 picks.
Yeah.
If there's one knock on Christian Gonzalez, just make sure you catch the ball. It was a veteran play by Tyreek Hill when his eyes got a little too wide. But I'm done doing, is he going to be a stud? I'm done doing, is he going to justify the pick? Like, he's kind of here.
Yeah.
Are we still debating this? Are we still wondering this? I know he had a
No.
rough camp, but at this point, I'm ready to call it what we said it might be at the time. He's just a gamer. He shows up and he performs, and he's just continues to be. He's been their best player, right, through 5 weeks. Am I wrong in saying that?
100% correct. I mean, it might have been Keon White early, but he's obviously had some issues as of late. I also had Christian Gonzalez, so here are the stats. 21 routes across from Tyreek Hill, 3 catches, 55 yards, with a pass breakup, almost INT.
Yeah.
He had the interception was on Odell Beckham. He was covering Beckham on that play. Just an unreal interception. Like, I understand that it's telegraphed a little bit by Huntley. He kind of stares it down. But that is not an easy play to make. Like, it's a free access slant.
Right.
Most of the time, the quarterback thinks that that's just an easy completion. He jumps it, and you can see the explosiveness in the close that he had to jump the football. Extremely impressive. All of his man-to-man reps against Tyreek Hill just in his hip pocket the entire way. He had one play that was absolutely absurd. Tyreek Hill, they like to bring him in motion. So they bring him in motion at the snap, and they roll him into the route, that cheat motion that they use.
Yeah.
And Gonzo's on him in man coverage, and he comes with him stride for stride, and Tyreek Hill runs a vertical out of the motion, and Gonzo just with him the whole way, like stride for stride, even with Tyreek Hill getting the head start into the route. That's the fastest receiver in the NFL. This guy, the way he glides to top speed, it doesn't even look like he's trying that hard to run fast, and he's running fast. It's kind of like, you remember Randy Moss? Like, it just didn't even look like his legs were moving that fast, but he was just pulling away from the defense. He's a glider, Christian Gonzalez, in a similar way. The only thing that I would say about this game for Gonzalez is more a coaching thing. Like, why not more man-to-man? Like, if you're the Patriots coaching staff on the defensive side with DeMarcus Covington, you've got to be thinking to yourself, like, we have Stephon Gilmore. Like, we have Ty Law, Darrell Revis. Like, we have one of those types of guys. Patrick Surtain in Denver. We have one of those types of guys. So there's no reason to play soft zone coverage. Like, there's no reason to do that.
So I've been wondering this. We can get into this more when we get to the Texans. But, you lose your defensive signal caller. You're down a lot of players, frankly, in the secondary. And you're facing a couple teams in San Francisco, in Miami, that have a ton of weapons across the board.
Yeah.
And I understand in those cases maybe wanting to just be like, all right, they're going to use a ton of motion, change things pre-snap.
Yeah.
Let's just keep everything in front of us. This week against Houston,
They should match up.
The matchups are there. Like, they should go back to play because they Gonzalez was shadowing guys at the start of the season. And then as they've lost players on defense, that's changed. You got to get back to it this week, I think. It's a big week to get back to it.
So he technically shadowed Hill in this game.
Yeah.
And a lot of their zone coverages convert to man on vertical. So he's carrying a vertical deep, even if it's technically zone. But I would just say the biggest thing, with it is like the pass rush, because when you play zone coverage, you're going to usually only rush 4 guys. Right now, they're 30th in the league in pressure rate with a 4-man rush. They're not getting home with a 4-man rush.
Well, that was another thing I wondered. Are they trying to buy themselves some time by playing zone because the pass rush isn't there?
So I would think it would be the opposite, right? Where if you play man-to-man, not only can you put another guy in the rush, right? You can get into 5-6-man rush. Not only that, but now you go and you disrupt those guys on the outside. You throw off the timing, right? You play press. You press those guys. You ride those guys down the field. Now the timing's off. The quarterback has to hold the ball.
See, I guess that tracks. I was thinking more like I was kind of under the assumption maybe they don't want to blitz.
Yeah.
And in that case, it's a little easier for the coverage to hold up in zone for a longer period of time. It's not going to be as tight coverage, but you're not forcing the quarterback to get the ball out of his hands.
Yeah, I just look at it with the way that they've struggled in the pass rush, the way they've struggled to rush and contain quarterbacks in the pocket. It's been one or the other. It's either been poor discipline with the pass rush and a 4-man rush, or it's been no rush because they're just trying to keep the quarterback in the pocket. So to find a nice way to get pressure on the quarterback, I'm almost ready to go back to like 2018-19, like bring out the cover zeros, bring out the blitzes, like 5-man pressure package, like with single high safety, and go get the quarterback, because the zone stuff is not working right now. They're allowing almost 10 yards per pass attempt in zone coverage, 9.9 yards per pass attempt when they play zone.
Almost more yards than Ashton Jeanty's running per carry at Boise State.
There you go. So they are tied for dead last in the league in yards per attempt against in zone coverage. So play a little bit more man-to-man maybe, and that would help out a lot. And you have the horse. Like, you have the dude. Like, Christian Gonzalez can take Stephon Diggs. He can take a Tyreek Hill. He can take, Christian Kirk or whatever Jacksonville's throwing at you. So they have the guy that can go ahead and take those top matchups and take those heavyweight battles. So I would lean all the way into that. Who's your second up?
Marte Mapu.
Yeah.
Just because there's so much put in that play on his plate in that game. And second season in the NFL, barely played as a rookie, missed time coming in, really wasn't a part of anything in training camp. And to have the green dot and play as much as he did and communicate. And the Patriots had their defensive issues in this game, certainly. I don't want to minimize that, but it never felt like any of them were due to like miscommunications or guys being out of position, right? You didn't have like you had against Seattle where DK Metcalf just down the sideline. So I felt like, against San Francisco, the communication, there seemed to be issues, right, without Juwan Bentley. In this game, I thought Mapu did a really good job. And he just played well, too. I look at, was it in the first quarter? I know it was in the first half, where Jalen Waddle runs that slant. It wasn't a great throw, but there's Marte Mapu waiting in the middle for him, and he puts a lick on him.
Yeah.
And that's not a guy that's rusty. That's not a guy that's tentative about missing time. That's a guy that's ready to play. I thought they got a really good performance out of Marte Mapu in this game.
Yeah, I had him on my list as well. Played every single defensive snap with the green dot. So that is really hard to do. He was able to do it. There were a couple of plays where he was kind of felt like he was everywhere. He had one play in the red zone where he covered 3 different routes as a single high safety. 3 different routes. That's really impressive. It's hard to do, and that really stood out to me. I also would add that the trickle-down effect that it had on some of the rest of the defense I thought was really beneficial in this game, because we talked a lot last week about having to play Tavai off the ball so much. With Marte Mapu back playing a little bit at the second level, Tavai played a season-high 38 snaps on the line of scrimmage this week. He was back to playing on the edge.
Where he should be.
A ton more. So now you have Mapu playing at the second level next to like a Raekwon McMillan, which we'll get to. Yeah. And then you have Tavai back on the line of scrimmage. Because Tavai is back on the line of scrimmage on early downs, now Joshua Uche doesn't have to play the run early downs anymore, so he goes back to a situational role. So it just had this giant domino effect on the whole front seven. It wasn't perfect. There was a couple play action plays that whizzed by his ear that he's going to have to fix moving forward. Reads off a play action from the second level. But if he's Marte Mapu linebacker, hell yeah, finally.
There you go.
If he's Marte Mapu linebacker, then they can figure out ways to use some of the other guys to the best of their abilities. So it wasn't just that he played well and he wore the green dot and the communication was good and his role was taken care of. There was also a nice little trickle down effect that it had on the rest of the defense. And I'd give I kind of said this stuff about man coverage and zone coverage. Like, kudos to DeMarcus Covington and the staff. I thought that was one of the first times where I was like, good coaching move. Like that,
Yeah.
That's the right thing to do. He's at the second level of the defense most of the time. Tavai's back on the end of the line. Like, this is all the pieces are starting to fit together a little bit better in that front seven. So I was excited about that.
Yeah.
And I was excited about Mapu playing linebacker.
Of course.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of this game.
Yeah.
Third up.
Pop Douglas.
Yeah.
And this was clearly his best game of the year. I know he put up numbers in that Jets game, but I know I talked about it on other shows. I don't remember if we did it on this show. That was like an empty calories kind of game to me. Because, yes, he put up the numbers, but a lot of it was in the second half when the game was sort of out of reach, and it felt like they were forcing him the ball. It didn't feel like he was producing in the context of the offense. It felt like it was just like, all right, throw the ball to Pop because we need to throw the ball to Pop, right?
Yeah.
This game, he was productive, he was involved, but he's doing it in big spots. He's moving the chains.
Yeah.
It just felt more natural, right? So we'll have to see if he can continue that with Drake Maye now. But that was sort of the role, the performance you hope to see from Pop Douglas in the summer. Even coming out of that Jets game with the numbers he put up, it was like, all right, so he caught whatever it was, 9 passes, but it never felt like he made a difference. None of those felt like impact plays. He was making impact plays in this game.
Yeah, he was the reason why they got into scoring range on the game-winning drive that wasn't.
Yeah.
He got him down the field. It was a big part of that. I love the fact that a lot of it came out of the slot. Like, finally, some like quick hitters over the middle out of the slot from this offense was great to see. Miami opened the middle of the field a little bit too often. I don't know why. I don't know why you would ever open the middle of the field against the Patriots, but they surely did. They played some split safety, and he was in there in the middle, finding ways to make that happen. And a couple of those like hammer routes or whatever you want to call them, where the underneath player kind of sits and holds the zone, and then he just curls under, behind it on that post. Hit that twice, 2 or 3 times. I want to say twice it was. One of them they almost hit. If he had caught the one that he dove for, if he catches that in stride, he's walking in for a touchdown. So that play was working for them. He was working for them. I like that one. That's a good one. My last one, though, is Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah, he was good.
33-yard touchdown, third down conversion early on in this game. But even bigger than that, I just liked how he bounced back. I like how he took some adversity on the chin. I know that it was a soft demotion, benching, whatever you want to call it. But this team needs guys to respond the way Ramondre Stevenson responded. I thought he said all the right things during the week. I thought he had the right attitude. He has the big play on the touchdown. Like, that is what we were all looking for. He doesn't fumble in the game.
Right.
First game without a fumble. I know that's not necessarily a high bar, but
It's important.
It's important to see somebody bounce back from some adversity on this team, because I definitely think that that's been missing. You don't want the losing to become it's a Felgerism. You don't want the losing to become habitual. It seemed to me like Ramondre Stevenson was part of the solution on Sunday and not the problem, and that's what they need from a guy that they just paid. So I like the bounce back from Ramondre. I thought he handled it well. Now, of course, he's hurt. So we'll see what happens. It seems like that's happening a lot with this team. All right, let's move over to the downs.
Nick Leverett.
Yeah.
And look, there were no bad snaps, but 10 pressures, and interior pressure is just going to wreck your game, especially with the young quarterback. And look, they clearly don't feel great about it because they've signed 2 centers this week, one to the active roster, one to the practice squad. You knew we talked about this last week. Was David Andrews playing well before he got hurt? Yeah. Not necessarily up to his standard, but I kind of said it's almost not worth discussing because the drop-off is so significant. There's nobody who's going to come in and come close to what he's giving you, and I think he kind of saw that. Yeah,
Lever had a tough game. Some of it, the 10 pressures, I think you could have argued that some of it was on the guards as well, not helping him out as much as they could have. There's a lot of early on, especially, it was a lot of stunt pressure, right? Like twists on the inside. that they weren't passing off quite quick enough. There were times where the nose tackle was like shaded into the A gap, and so it's on his outside shoulder. And like normally you would like to see, because he's got to snap the ball and then he's got to get into position to block the guy. So normally you would like to see the guard kind of give some help there to the inside, like at least give like the shade like a bump or some, forearm or something to try to slow him down so that Leverett can get out of his stance and snap the ball. So I don't think it was all on him that they allowed 10 quarterback pressures up the middle. But at the same time, he is the center, right? So if they're coming off his outside or inside hip, he is the guy in the middle that's allowing that to happen. So he was on my list as well. I just thought that in general, and I kind of put Onwenu in this boat a little bit too. In general, it just wasn't really great on the inside. Ironically, with all the questions about the tackles, I thought the tackles played pretty well in this game. But Darian Lowe, especially, I thought this was one of his best games as a Patriot that I've ever seen him play. He was really solid in this game. There's too much pressure on the interior. Even if you watch the Polk play at the end of the game, there's interior pressure in Jacoby Brissett's lap. It's part of the reason why the ball was a little bit high to Jalen Polk. So that needs to be cleaned up. And Mike Onwenu, I challenge him a little bit. Like, that's your $18 million a year player.
Right.
Like, that's your big money guard, your big money offensive lineman. He's got to step up and he's got to play a little bit better in that situation. Late game, crunch time, like that's when you need your horses to really step up and play good football. And it just wasn't quite good enough in certain spots. So we both had Leverett. Who was your next one?
I feel bad because I feel like I'm picking him every week, but it's just been a rough start to the season, Joshua Uche.
Yeah.
Didn't give you much as a pass rusher, and then I'll talk more about special teams in a little bit, but the 12th guy on the field, and it was a brutal, and Gonzalez bailed him out, but had the potential to be a true game losing 12 men on the field penalty. It just feels like every week there's something he's doing that's just a lack of discipline or just lack of awareness.
Yep. That's a fair one. I'll go before we get into the coaching, because that's, I think, on both of our lists. I'll go Raekwon McMillan. Yeah. Just couldn't get off blocks in the run game. There's really nothing else to say besides that. Like, it's such a big drop off from Jawan Bentley to what they're getting off the ball right now at the linebacker position. It's been an absolute struggle trying to get off blocks and trying to condense space from the second level of the defense. He was in the mix on like 5 or 6 big runs by Miami, like targeting him in the run game and running right at him on that last drive. 16 yards, he just can't get off a block, goes right up the middle. Raheem Mostert in that last drive for the Dolphins, one of the big runs on that play. I don't know what they do at the second level of the defense. Mapu obviously is a part of it, and so will Duggar be, he'll be a part of it too when he gets back. We should mention that he was back at practice today, so maybe that's a positive sign. It's almost a little scary about what I'm about to say, but like Sione Takitaki is
very important player.
An important player. Like this is part of the problem with the team right now, and why it's kind of is where it is. Takitaki's signed to play like the Mac Wilson third down special teams role. And because you lose Bentley and because you don't have great depth across the roster, now you're really counting on Takitaki to be a 3-down player. Like, he has to come back and be better than Raekwon McMillan is giving you right now. So I've been disappointed in McMillan because to me, he should just be a hammer in the middle of the defense. I don't even need him to make the tackle. Like, just go in there and just blow up the scheme, right? Like, just be the one that kind of comes charging at the line of scrimmage and blows it up. Jawan Bentley used to do that all the time, where like it wasn't necessarily him who got the guy on the ground. It was him that blew up the blocking scheme that allowed somebody else to come in and clean it up. They need more from that second level spot, especially if it's going to be Raekwon moving forward. So if it's Takitaki going into that spot, Christian Ellis had a rough game in this one too, so I don't necessarily think he's the answer. But they need to find some answers there at the second level of the defense. Should we get on the coaching? Because I think I
had coaching as my third one too.
Yeah. What did you look at specifically?
I mean, just overall, I thought the offensive game plan didn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Especially once you got into the game. Franchise record 7.9 yards per carry.
Yeah.
And I think they had the 7th or 8th highest throw rate in the league, right?
Yeah, they ran it 18 times.
I'm going to start with situational football.
Yeah.
At the end of the first half, you have that spot where it's all right. Either just run the half out and go to the locker room, or push the ball down the field. Again, they split the difference in the worst way possible, gave the ball back to Miami. Now, Miami tripped all over themselves and get back to the Patriots, who somehow then punted it back to Miami, and it was just a beautiful sequence of sicko football.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about pants off in the press box. Like, that was disgusting. It was great.
Why is that a good thing? I don't understand.
Because there's something.
Why do you want to watch bad? That was bad football. We can call it what
I don't
it
know.
was.
There's something about it where everybody starts complaining about it, where it suddenly, like, I just enjoyed, like, there's a little bit of a football fan snob in me where I'm like, well, I like this.
Okay.
What's wrong with you people? You don't like it. I like it. But anyway,
I don't get it.
From an actual execution point of view, not good. And not only that, and Mayo pointed this out, and I recognized it the minute it happened. That was the exact same thing they did against Seattle. And it cost them the game against Seattle. Because Seattle actually was competent and turned it into a field goal in a game that goes to overtime is obviously massively significant. So Mayo talks about not being a mistake repeater. Alex Van Pelt, mistake repeater.
Yeah, or Mayo.
Moment.
Like, look, and this is I wanted to say this off the top, and I had a lot to say about the Maye thing, and I forgot. One of the things that I actually really like about this decision to go to Maye, and this is, again, don't aggregate me, okay? This is just my opinion. But Mayo, to me, went in on Monday and said, we're making the change.
Yeah.
AVP, Elliott, whoever else has a say in all of this, like, I'm the head coach of the team. This is what we're doing. And he needs to do more of that. At the end of the half, we've seen it on all, they didn't have a ton of access, but we've gotten some access to the sideline at times in the Bill era. NFL Films has gotten access to the sideline in Bill era, and it's documented, like, it's on camera, of Bill being like, hey, Josh, let's run it here. Hey, Josh, let's make sure we don't punt it back to them at the end of the half here. Little things like that. It's not, hey, Josh, let's run outside zone weak. It's not, like, he's not calling the play. He's just a little subtle reminder.
It's a game script. It's the thing that the coaches you love can't do.
Yeah.
Or refuse to do.
Yeah.
So there's that. You then have at the end of the half, again, you're running 7.9 yards per carry.
Yeah.
And I know 2-minute drill, traditional thought, throw the ball, but they get down to the 13-yard line with whatever it was, 1:54 to go, like at the 2-minute warning. So you need to go 13 yards in 2 minutes with all 3 timeouts available to you.
Yeah, it's not happening.
The entire playbook's available.
Yeah.
The entire playbook should be available in that moment, and they throw 4 times.
Yeah.
Should one of them been a touchdown? Like, maybe. The rule was called correctly, and this is where I'll break some people. I actually think it's good that rule exists.
Yeah.
I understand why it exists. It's annoying, but it makes sense when you look at it in the context of it borrows language from actually the rule that determines whether or not a player is out of bounds. And if that rule didn't exist, you could technically have a situation where a player makes a catch in bounds while simultaneously being out of bounds.
Yeah.
And obviously you can't have that, right?
Right.
So, but anyway, so you don't have a problem that they didn't try running the ball there?
At the end of the game?
Yeah. Take your just general anti-run bias out.
I have a little bit of a problem with it, but this is the crux of our debate with everything that is football. Like, the problem that I have with the whole argument that they called 4 pass plays in a row, all incomplete, is that you're taking out some really important context, which is that they were a heel away from the game-winning touchdown. And
okay, but they didn't score it.
But as an offensive guy and as a defender of play callers and tight pants people, I have to say that to me is an execution-based error and not a play calling error. Like, it's not Alex Van Pelt's fault that Jalen Polk didn't get his second foot in bounds. It is the player's responsibility to make that play.
But I also just think you're at a point where you're running the ball so well. You don't have to go far. You still have all 3 your timeouts available.
They could have mixed in a run.
Why not lean on the strength? And I'm not even saying you run it in from the 12. maybe you run it down to the 2, and then you can run some sort of screen or a jet pass or something like that, right? Throwing from the 13 is kind of tough because you're too far out to run your goal line pass package, but you are sort of constricted on space when it comes to your just general passing game.
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent of from like the 16 to like the 11, or even inside that, the 16 to like the 8, run the ball in there so you can get to your goal line pass package, right?
So like most teams have the red zone broken up into 3 sort of places. So it's 1 to 6, like inside the 5, and then you go to like 7 to like 14, 15, depending on the coach, 16, and then you have like high red zone, fringe red zone.
Right.
So a lot of offensive philosophy that, and I kind of agree with it, is that you want best. It's kind of like with third down too. Like best case scenario is that you avoid the red zone altogether.
Yeah.
And you throw it in from like the 22, right? Like that's like the best case scenario, because as your point you just made, the space when it condenses, it's just harder and harder and
Unless
harder.
you have like a Rob Gronkowski where it's like, we're just going to flex him out and throw the ball up to him. Like, I'm a big proponent of, all right, let's just run this thing, get it inside the 5, and then open it all back up.
So, like, when they got to the 12, to me, the further you go in, the harder it is to throw the ball from the 12. So I didn't hate them throwing it from the 12 because they still have a little bit of space to have we're talking about vertical element of this field, right? So they still have a little bit of a verticality to the field. And not only do they still have it, they had the perfect play call and the perfect route to beat the coverage. They're in Tampa 2, and they run the seam splitter to Jalen Polk, and it works beautifully. Like they had it. They had the play called up. They had it drawn up perfectly. The receiver just didn't get his foot in bounds. So, I guess they could have mixed in a run at some point, but now you're in 3rd and 10. You're probably, I know it's a 2-down territory thing, but you're starting to get into that situation. So could they have ran it on 1st down maybe? Sure. Like 1st or 2nd down. Yeah, maybe. Maybe they saved the Polk play for 3rd down.
Right.
Or something
and
like that.
I would just even go back. Well, because you're running 8 yards a carry. 2nd and 10, run it. 3rd and 2, take a shot to the end zone. If not, 4th and 2, you can pick it up. And not even that, like you can, it does get tougher to throw when you get down there because of the vertical stuff. But my thing is like, can we get to the 2-3 yard line, force them to bring in the jumbo package, and then just like bootleg and hit a tight end in the flat?
That would be too easy. That would be too easy. They don't do things that are easy.
Well, I'm saying like that, or even again, pop. Where is the pop pass?
The pop pass.
Where is the jet sweep? I've been waiting for this all year.
You're not getting it. They do an orbit. That's the best you're gonna get.
And then another coaching thing that's a little more abstract, so you might hate this, but
probably
when the Dolphins score, this isn't so much a coaching decision as much as something I think reflects on coaching.
Yeah.
When the Dolphins scored what ended up being the game-winning touchdown with 4.5 minutes to go, Alec Ingold runs it in from the 3-yard line.
Yeah.
That was the Dolphins' 72nd offensive play of the game.
Yeah.
The Patriots at that point had run 41 plays.
Yeah.
A 30-play discrepancy is nuts.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't see that. And that's where I give the defense a little bit of leeway because average team runs, 60 plays, 65 plays over the course of a game? So here you are with 5 minutes to go. You're already over. It's not exceptional, but it's over average for what you're going to ask a defense to do. And a lot of that, it's complementary football, right? It's a big Bill Belichick thing. Like, the offense could not stay on the field, could not sustain drives. They did not have a drive that lasted over 5 minutes. Through the first 3 quarters, they only had 2 drives that lasted over 4 plays.
Yeah.
They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 3-and-outs in the first 3 quarters of 8 drives. That to me, and that there's a number of reasons that come from that, but that reflects on coaching to me. That is something where, like, the game plan wasn't good enough. You should not be getting out-repped by 30 plays with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, we had a lot of the same coaching point, criticisms. The offensive philosophy, game plan, whatever you want to call it. I already talked about all the route concepts and things like that I don't necessarily care for. I still don't really feel as though his play calling with Van Pelt is sequenced or is married together. I still feel like we're a little bit in the Madden offense phase where we're just kind of pulling plays out of a hat. But maybe that becomes a little bit more sequenced with some more consistency. And with Drake Maye under center, maybe they get some better quarterback play and they're able to marry it up a little bit more. But I still feel like we're outside zone one play, we're empty the next play, then we're gun run, then we're gap, then we're we're just all over the place with the play calling. They're calling play action plays that don't marry to the runs. Like they're calling outside zone bootleg play actions, and they've only ran outside zone a couple times. Like I don't understand how those things are gonna really get the defense out of certain coverage, or get the line to take the cheese or whatever. Like it just doesn't seem like that is sequenced together still enough. I didn't like the end of the half either. The big thing with the end of the half to me is that you're backed up. Like you're inside your own 10 or 15 yard line. With the way you play offense, you really think you're going to go 90 yards in 2 minutes?
Right.
So the biggest thing there, they had the lead at that point too, I want to say. The biggest thing there is playing the clock, right? Like just make sure you don't give the ball back to the opponent. So when you run it for 7 or 8 yards on first down and it's 2nd and 3, pick up a first down so that you have 4 more downs to now work the clock, right? And if you hit another one, then yeah, maybe now you start to open it up and you start to play for points. But like at that situation, you can't view it like you're playing for points.
No.
Until the offense starts to move the ball significantly better. Right now you are playing field position, you're playing clock, you're managing the game on the offense side of the ball. You're not the 07 Patriots where you're going to go 90 yards in 3 plays. Like that's just not going to happen. I didn't like that. I thought I put that as much on Mayo as I put it on Van Pelt.
Fair.
I think Mayo needs to get on the headset and be like, hey, this is what we're doing. Run the ball. You call it, but we're running the ball. So I feel like that's a big thing with the coaching as well. And we should mention 12 penalties.
Yeah.
12 and 14 really. 12 accepted. Even going into the game-winning drive that wasn't. I love Hunter Henry. I think he's a good football player, a good Patriot. But it's 4th and 10 and you jump offside and you make it 4th and 15. You're already a team that doesn't pick up 10 yards very easily.
Right.
You're definitely not picking up 15 yards. At that point, the one coaching thing I wanted to end with before we move on.
Well, I have one more too.
Okay. Did you think at all that they should have considered kicking the field goal?
Like for a second, I guess the TV broadcast was talking about it a lot.
Yeah.
But talking about it in the context of like game tying or game winning.
Yeah.
But I mean, to your point, this is not an offense that picks up a ton of yards. The defense is gassed. They've been out-repped by 30 plays. So you're either going to have to recover an onside kick and still go, 30, 40 yards.
Right.
Or you got to give the ball back to your defense who just got absolutely gashed on the ground.
Yeah.
Like
those are that was Gerard's reasoning, and I think that's fair.
There's an argument to be made, but I think you go for this. This team, you're playing with house money. Like you're in the game, go win it.
Yeah, so Gerard Mayo's argument was that the defense felt like the defense was gassed, and giving the ball back to Miami there to try to get a stop was probably less likely than maybe they wanted it to be. But this is where the nerds. I'm going to defend the non-nerds for a second. I'm going to be on your side of the street a little bit. Sometimes in those situations,
did the nerds want the field goal?
No, the nerds would always want to go.
Yeah, okay.
In that situation. So the nerds telling you to go, right? But the nerds are not always factoring in that this is the Patriots offense that can't move the ball from point A to point B. So
this is what Bill talked about the other
right.
day.
So yeah, of course, like over the course of a million trials and different teams in the league over the last 10 years, when you've put in, the 07 Patriots and the 2013 Broncos and the 2018 Kansas City Chiefs and like all these other offenses, yeah, of course, like the odds of picking up 4th and 15 are better than field goal, onside kick, 3 and out, field goal. Is it for this team? Like, is it really higher odds to pick up 4th and 15 than it is to find a way to get the ball back?
It is, but I think it is. Just because when
now you're on the nerd side.
No, you said that the
nerds would have gone for it. The nerds did go for it.
Wait, what play are you talking about?
I'm talking about 4th and 15 on the second to last possession of the game.
Yeah, but I'm not saying it because of the nerds.
I know, but I just
wanted the field goal?
I would have considered kicking the field goal.
I would have considered it, but here's the thing: the nerds
They're not picking up 4th and 15.
That defense was gassed. They'd been on the field for 71 plays.
Yeah,
they were not getting you a stop.
So you reverse nerd that because the nerds would have gone for it as they did.
The nerds are right, but their reason. Sometimes the nerds are right, but their reasoning's atrocious.
It dawned on me after the game. It wasn't something I thought about live because my brain. It's always go for it in that situation live. But after the game, I was like, I don't know. Like maybe you do count on your defense to try to get a 3 and out there.
Well, but here's the thing: if you're going to count on your defense,
because remember you have all 3 timeouts.
Right. But that's the thing. So I never assume. So here's just a philosophy of mine.
Yeah.
I never factor in an onside kick.
Yeah.
I think the odds of getting it's winning the lottery.
Yeah.
Like
I agree with that.
I'm not gonna budget myself around winning the lottery.
Yeah.
So to me, well, all right, if we're gonna put the defense back on the field anyway, let's put them back on the field at the 17, where if we get the ball back, we actually have favorable field position versus. Yeah. Well, now, all right, the defense still needs to stop, but they got to get a stop all the way over here, and we have to go that much further on offense. Like, and you know me, I'm the special teams guy, and no offense to special teams coaches or kickers or anybody, I am only going with an onside kick if I absolutely need it. Like, onside kick to me is, all right, we're down 14.
Right.
Like, we have to get another possession here.
Yeah.
Right? In that situation, an onside kick, give me pretty much anything. Onside kick is the less favorable of the 2 options. It's just how I view the game.
Okay, so you said you had one more coaching thing?
Yeah, so this is going to be a first. I have something that I put on both the ups and the downs. I've probably done this before.
You just have to do something weird. You just
and
have to.
It's special teams. It's just special teams as a whole.
Yeah.
Because they block a punt.
Yes.
Again, the kick coverage I thought was really good.
Yep.
But 2 just brutal penalties and a missed chip shot field goal. So
in a 5-point game.
Like they lost this game in large part because of special teams, but I don't want to put the special teams all the way on the downs because you blocked a punt.
Right.
And again,
that was a field flipping situation.
Right. And again, you're covering kicks well and all that. So roller coaster day for special teams is what I called it.
Yeah.
We'll talk to Jeremy Springer tomorrow. I'm kind of curious, although at that point you're probably past it, but how he viewed it. Again, 12 men on the field that gives Miami the ball back after defense gets a stop.
Right.
Again, in a game where, Gonzalez ended it. Gonzalez, I think it was 2 plays later, gets the pick. But in a game where the play disparity was as big as it was, giving them essentially an extra free possession, brutal. You take a delay a game on a punt, non-intentionally. They did take one intentionally, and that's whatever. Yeah. But Mayo even said after the game, it wasn't intentional.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You're huddling up on third down. The punt team doesn't huddle. If you watch the game, and the reason you don't huddle is because before the third down, you're basically deciding, all right, if they don't get it, this is what we're going to do. There's no decision-making. Get on the field, kick the ball.
Yeah.
It's that simple, except it wasn't in that case. And then, again, missed 33-yard field goal. Missed field goals are going to happen. But in a game like this, come on, you got to hit that. You got to hit the gimmies. So not fully an up, not fully a down, but there were individual plays for special teams that deserve to be on one list or the other.
Behringer had a bad plus 50 punt, too, I think, in this game, right? It was late. It was like a 41-yard shank or something like that. And then the one up, I would also say, Marcus Jones' 15-yard punt return kind of gave them some life there at the end of the game. That was the other reason I
was sitting there waiting because I came into this game being like, this gives me big-time 2022 Jets game vibes.
Yeah,
you remember
Marcus
that
Jones.
one, right?
Yep.
2 field goals in the second quarter and then Marcus Jones. And I said to Matt Dolph, it was before the Patriots drive that ended with the Polk play.
Yeah.
That we were, or potential field. He goes, so the Patriots go down and score? I'm like, no. Patriots punt. Patriots go for it, 3 and out. Dolphins have to punt back. Marcus Jones has a return. Just watch. And Jones makes that first guy miss. I almost stood up.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, it's actually going to happen. But roller coaster day for special teams.
Yep. All right, let's take some of these phone calls. But before we do, the long fall day weekend is almost here.
Fall-a-day weekend.
Fall-a-day?
Do you really not understand what that is?
No. The long fall-a-day weekend is almost here, and you can get ready for...
It's a long holiday weekend in the fall.
For Columbus Day?
Yeah, long fall-a-day weekend.
Dude, we don't... What's Columbus Day?
No. Or just
what is that?
Or just if you want to take a fall weekend. People, they go and see the leaves or whatever.
I'm not complaining. This is a first world problem. A vacation in the fall...
A long fall-a-day weekend, yeah.
The long fall-a-day weekend is almost here, and you can get ready for an epic Pats-Texans matchup by hosting a cozy watch party with your Bob's Discount Furniture. Party-ready dining sets for your game day snacks, relaxing reclining sectionals for your cheering section, Bob-O-Pedic mattresses to dream about the next game, or Drake Maye. When you shop the Bob's Dare to Compare challenge, you'll find everything you need, and all for way less than the competition. So stop in and see how much you can save when you dare to compare with Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots. All right, we left these people on hold for a long time. This is just like last week. Yeah. So we're going to go through these calls.
Just like last week, but let's take the calls.
Patty is in Agawam. What's up, Patty?
What's up, guys? I love the open today.
Oh, great.
There you go.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, it was
Alex,
about you. There you go. What's up, Patty?
Alex, my wife budgets our life like I've already won the lottery. So I know what you mean. So I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on what do you think the best way to attack this Houston offense is going to be? Do you think you play more zone, or do you think you try and man them up and just go after them? See if you can bring an extra man, and possibly if you do play man, have a spy. So C.J. Stroud, I mean, he's not like Lamar Jackson, but the guy can take off, and he can run and pick up first downs, and he's been doing a little bit more of that this year. And I'll take it off here so you can get some other guys off, and as always, you guys are the best.
Thanks, Patty. Thanks for the call. And we're always love to put you in the open as one of the regulars. It's a good question. So statistically, C.J. Stroud has destroyed man coverage this year. He is best in the league, like passer rating, EPA per play, yards per pass attempt, just across the board has just torched man coverage. Now, the one caveat to that is that he was torching man coverage with Nico Collins on the field.
Right.
So now Nico Collins is not on the field. It's Stephon Diggs. It's Tank Dell. Remember Xavier Hutchinson? We talked about him in the draft. I know we did.
Yeah.
He's now on the Texans. He's out there for them as well as like their big body outside receiver, kind of like an Allen Lazard type. So they have those three guys. They have Dalton Schultz at tight end, who's a good tight end. He can make some things happen. But in theory, they should be able to go man-to-man against this team. Now, do you do that against Stroud, given the numbers? I should put in that caveat, though. We're still kind of in small sample size world right now with numbers like that. So he hasn't had a ton of dropbacks against man coverage, but the ones that he have been heavily in the Texans' offense favor when teams play man-to-man.
I mean, he also hasn't exactly played the best defenses in the NFL.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, this one's pretty straightforward. Gonzalez on Diggs.
Yep.
John Jones on Tank Dell. You're going to have to figure it out with Xavier Hutchinson, and I've talked about this, Evan. These bigger receivers give them trouble.
Yeah.
And this is maybe a Zay Bolden game or
I've been waiting for it.
Alex Austin game.
Yeah, we've seen Marco Wilson out there.
Marco Wilson,
yeah.
yep.
Alex Austin on IR.
Right, right, Marco Wilson game, thank you.
Yep.
The X factor to me, there's two. You probably not surprised, am infatuated with the Gonzalez-Stephon Diggs matchup.
Yeah.
Because this guy cooked you for years in Buffalo. And when they drafted Christian Gonzalez, I think my first reaction was, finally, somebody to cover Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
Now, they obviously never matched up last year. Diggs also sort of gave up late last season.
Right.
But now here we go. Diggs, wide receiver 1 with Collins out.
Yeah.
Gonzalez healthy. Let's see it. I asked Mike Pellegrino about Diggs today, and he was very, very complimentary of him.
Yeah, how
could
you not be?
Hasn't lost a step, and Diggs has been good.
Yeah.
Diggs has been good this year. Obviously, it's going to come to another level. But assuming that Gonzalez stays competitive, and you're going to hate this take for me, but this is the biggest test for Christian Gonzalez for me. Not Tyreek Hill, not A.J. Brown, not any of these other guys, because of what Diggs has done to the Patriots.
That's fair. I mean, look, Diggs is great. Like, you're not going to hear me say that.
But so is Gonzalez. So taking that matchup out of it, Dalton Schultz, to me, has a chance to break this game. And I know he hasn't done one of the stories in Houston is like he maybe hasn't been involved as he should be.
Yeah.
22 targets, 14 catches for 116 yards. But how are you, like, is it Del Pettis? It's probably not Marte Mapu. It shouldn't be Jalen Hawkins. He needs to be on the back end.
Yeah.
So, you're asking a rookie in his sixth career game to go up against the guy who's one of the better tight ends in the league. That's a tough matchup. And that's somewhere where if I'm CJ Stroud, I'm looking at Dalton Schultz a lot this week.
So see about Kyle Duggar's status, because I agree with in man-to-man, in theory, you have the Joneses to run around with Tank Dell. You have Nico Collins or Stephon Diggs with Christian Gonzalez. Whatever third corner you use, Marco Wilson, Isaiah Bolden, maybe you play on Xavier Hutchinson, who's a nice player, but isn't Yoshivas, Alan Lazard, like that sort of.
If they're going to beat you, if they're going to beat you because Xavier Hutchinson is 6 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown, you kind of just tip your cap at that point.
So Schultz is an interesting one. I do think there is a world that Marte Mapu is the guy because he covered tight ends a little bit last year when he played last year. Kyle Duggar could come back and be somebody that could get him at times. I'm still waiting. I'm waiting for the Zay Bolden game.
I was going to say, maybe this is where you put Isaiah Bolden on him.
So Isaiah Bolden's been working a lot in practice at the nickel spot in the slot, playing more inside at like slot safety, if you want to call it that. I love that role for him, and I love that role in this offense this defense, because of the types of offenses that they play. These offenses that they play really like to put the DBs in the run game. Like they try to put those guys at the point of attack in the run game. If you have somebody like Isaiah Bolden, who we know is athletic, can tackle, a good special teams player, good size, I do think that he can add an element that the Joneses just don't necessarily bring to the table. So if you bring him in, you have him cover the tight end. You have him play the nickel spot in the run game. You put Jonathan Jones on Tank Dell or Marcus Jones on Tank Dell, and you play ball, right? Because this Houston team is a big 12 personnel offense. They have the second highest rate of 12 personnel in the league. They do it, though, with a lot of two-back. Like, even though the guy's wearing a tight end number, he plays a lot in the backfield. And so that definitely gets in the way of some of these smaller corners. Like if they're going to run outside zone off the tackle with the lead blocker with the fullback, then that's a really tough assignment for a Marcus Jones or a Jonathan Jones. So I look at Isaiah Bolden, and I go back to some of the things that I was saying earlier about the coaching, and I really have picked a ton on Van Pelt, but I would say sort of the same thing to Covington and Mayo on the defensive side of the ball a little bit too. Like I just am waiting to see something that is like wows me in terms of like personnel or scheme or whatever. Like if you're ramping up Isaiah Bolden to play a little bit on defense, like at some point you got to unveil that, right? Like at some point you got to bring that out. And I feel like they should have maybe thought about it against San Francisco. I thought they might because of how much heavy personnel San Francisco plays. This is another team that's in that Shanahan tree mold that's going to play a lot of heavy personnel, that's going to want to run outside zone, that's going to want to throw the ball to the tight end. Like, let's try to get some beef in there. Let's try to get some size and not a linebacker type, like an actual cover player that can do it as well. And maybe that is Isaiah Bolden. But yeah, I like manning up against this team. I do. Eldred is in North Carolina. What's up, Eldred?
Hey, fellas, how y'all doing?
Hey. I'm doing well. How are you, Eldred?
All right. Hey, you taking your victory lap yet?
No victory laps on this show. We never do that.
Come on now. Come on, Evan. You got your boy in. Did you take your victory lap yet?
I did not, but you can take it for me if you want.
Now, I take mine every time y'all talk about C.J. Stroud. Like I tried 2 years ago to make that, proposition for everybody to talk me down. But I'm hoping everything plays better. I see what y'all were saying about Brissett. True enough, but I hope the kid play a little bit better. But then again, I don't expect so the first game because, where that line still kind of messed up. But I'm hoping, and I'll be watching the popcorn. Question is, do you think they can find an outside receiver besides trying to make a trade or whatever?
Yeah, it's a good question, Eldred, and thanks for the call. It's definitely the biggest thing outside the offensive line. It's the biggest thing holding this offense back, I would say, is the lack of vertical stretch from the outside. Like, they just don't have anybody that gets that threatens up the field from the outside. They've played Jalen Polk a lot at the X, but that's just not his natural position, I don't think, moving forward. I think ideally you have Jalen Polk and Pop Douglas as like the Z slots in this offense, and then you have a true X on the outside. Kayshon Boutte's been getting those opportunities. I'm not a big Kayshon Boutte guy, frankly. Maybe it does come together for him moving forward. A couple good run blocks over the last few weeks. Had a good catch on third down on a comeback route in the game against Miami. So maybe I need to give him some more credit. Obviously, the other hope was that it was going to be Javon Baker, right? But that hasn't happened. So
Right.
I don't know if there's an in-house option to that, but I know next season, off season, we're not going to just be talking about receivers. We're going to be talking specifically about outside receivers.
Yeah, we're not going to be doing slot guys,
Yeah.
and I mean, any of that. It's going to be big outside receivers. I was texting you about a couple guys in the draft. It was it this weekend or last weekend.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily saying these guys are the specific answer, but if you're a Patriots fan, you want guys to watch Trey Harris from Ole Miss,
Yeah.
who's the leading receiver in the nation right now. Elic Aomanor at Stanford is definitely got to watch. Nick Anderson, if he plays in Red River for Oklahoma. But I still think it's got to be a veteran. I still think it's got to be through trade. I'm still going to keep talking about DK Metcalf, but
Yeah.
they definitely need that kind of guy.
Who's the kid from, is it Colorado State?
Torrey Horton.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's going to be an interesting one because he's playing again, but he missed some time because he was hurt. He missed the Colorado game, so he missed Travis Hunter, and he's now playing hurt. And so there's this question of, is this who he really is? Is he hurt? The quarterback play hasn't been great. His stock's falling, but I think you're going to get a lot of people that when we assuming he kind of continues on this trend, I think you're going to get a lot of people that when we get to the draft are like, well, but go look at his 2023 tape.
Yeah.
Right? Well, go look at he was hurt. Oh, the quarterback sucked. And there's going to be a lot of people who kind of point to him, I think, for the Patriots and say, well, if you take the tackle in the first round, you take Torrey Horton on day 2, you might get a steal there.
Yeah, I've liked what I've seen from him in the limited things that I've seen. Explosive guy. Yeah, he could definitely.
Well, so that's the thing. This year he doesn't look
as explosive.
but I think it was a hamstring injury. I don't
Yeah.
remember exactly what the injury was.
Yeah.
But, when he gets healthy, he's going to be a pretty divisive player. His groin injury.
So there's guys like that. I think of a guy like a Tez Walker. With Drake Maye. That is like a go ball artist, not necessarily contested, but just a go ball artist on the outside that when they get that press man on the backside and it's just a single high safety, like Drake wants to take that shot. And if they can just get him somebody that can consistently win on that route, even if it's not like this big route tree high volume guy, but it's just somebody that can win on that route.
That's Trey Harris. And
Yeah.
You're not going to like Trey Harris because he's not, he's fast, but he's not fast, but big guy, wins down the field. He only wins down the field. He doesn't really win anywhere else, but he wins down the field, great at the catch point, can get separation through the route because he's just big. I'm interested. I'm going to be interested to see what you think of Trey.
Okay,
Harris.
so let me ask you another question.
This is the
about
guy I
draft.
sent you his draft network, just like the pros and cons last week, and I don't think you were thrilled.
let me ask you this because I don't know. I haven't looked deep in the board and all that kind of stuff yet.
All right.
So I will fully admit, because there's one wide receiver every single year that I fall in love with, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah,
right?
it's going to be Luther Burden. I don't know about Luther Burden now.
So 2 years ago,
Maybe Isaiah
Bond. 2 years ago, it was Zay Flowers,
Yeah.
right? This past year, it wasn't really on my radar as much because of the position the Patriots were in, but I liked all three of those guys.
You were in on Malik Neighbors.
Well,
yeah.
Come on, it's like a Lamborghini.
I
Likes
remember
a
we had the
Lamborghini.
conversation where because everybody was
guy-
it's Marvin Harrison and everybody else,
No, it was close.
and you were saying it was close, and you were right.
That dude is. When I saw him at the LSU Pro Day, I was like, that guy's different. Like that guy just is absolutely different, and he has been different. So
I think your whole take this because you're going to have to watch some Ryan Williams and some I'm blanking at Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah,
You can't draft him for 3 years.
okay. We're not on.
No,
the,
you're gonna-
We're not on the 2027.
No,
draft,
I know, but
all right?
I think every time we talk about receivers this year, you're going to end up just getting annoyed that they can't draft one of those guys.
Okay, so
It's the Coley
can I
Mick
get back
strategy.
to the point that
One
I'm
more.
trying to make?
It's the Coley Mick strategy. You draft Ryan Williams in the 3rd round when nobody else thinks of it this year, and you tell Roger Goodell to deal with it.
Really smart strategy. That's it. Didn't the Celtics draft Larry Bird like the year before?
Yeah, but you
he
could
came
do
out?
that.
Yeah,
It was legal.
Yeah. So, and I haven't done any of my deep dives.
Okay.
But I'm telling you based off of what I've seen live.
Yeah.
That Ted McMillan is going to be an absolute animal. Like, that guy's going to be a problem in the league.
I mean, you know where I'm at with him.
So my question to you isn't, is he good? Because we all know he's good.
Yeah.
My question to you is, where right now is Tet McMillan projected to go in the draft? And is there a world where they walk away with a tackle and McMillan?
Not one of the two guys we've been talking about. Not Campbell.
But so this
or
is not a
Banks.
scenario like, let's just play it out. And I hope that this doesn't happen because I hope Drake Maye brings them on a 11-game winning streak or something like that. But let's play it out. Let's say that they have a top 3 pick again.
Yeah.
There's not a world where they could trade up from 34 back up into the first round and get a guy like
They would have
Ted.
to do. What did Houston give up when they took Stroud and Anderson back to back?
Right, but they started at 12 from the Deshaun Watson pick, so they started higher.
I mean, could they do it? I'm sure there's a price, but you're talking about 2 top 10 picks essentially.
So he's going to go in the top 10.
It looks like he's going to
Yeah.
be the number, especially because Luther Burden has not had a great year.
Yeah.
He's going to be the first receiver off the board. So do you think that essentially do we go 10 picks without a receiver?
Yeah.
If you want to do that, I'll give you a player to watch.
Okay.
Ariante Ursary. I'm still kind of learning it. Ariante Ursary from Minnesota.
He's a tackle.
He's a left tackle.
Yeah.
He's-
I've heard the name.
He's on the freaks list.
Yeah.
He's 6'6", 330, moves incredibly well. Now, he's not polished like Campbell and Banks are polished.
Right.
And if you were to do this, you're drafting, like, McMillan's really good, but I think he's 20. He's either 20 or 21. You're going to have 2 really young, raw players. Now, if it works out, Drake Maye's 22.
Right.
Iracy's young, right? And you really have this core.
Sounds a little bit like the Green Bay Packers.
If you want to do it, what I would say, watch some of Ursary and learn how to pronounce his name.
Yeah.
And it becomes, do you trade down from 3 to maybe 5 or 6?
Right.
If the board sets up a certain way and the quarterback teams are there, take McMillan and then trade back up, or maybe you just get what you need in that deal, trade back up and take Ursary somewhere in the 20s. If you want McMillan in the tackle, you're going to have to sacrifice the tackle. You're not going to be able to get Campbell or Banks. I do wonder, and we've got some ball left to play, so don't hold me to this.
Yeah.
I do wonder if there's going to be some people when we get to that point that say, I saw enough from Ursary. Let's have some fun with trades and let's move around the board and see if we can end up with both of these guys.
I just the 2 biggest things to me with receivers, and I texted you this morning about Keon Coleman.
Yeah.
He was not having an awful rookie year, but he's not having a great rookie year
No.
either. And I felt the same way about Quentin Johnston 2 years ago, who's in the same boat. The 2 things that you need for receivers, you don't need elite speed. You don't need Tyreek Hill speed, but you need to be able to run. Like it's a skill position. Like you're not 4.61 for Keon Coleman is just not going to cut it. All right. The second thing that you need is more of an eye test thing, I would say, which is like a looseness to your body, right? Like you want to have a looseness or an ability to sink your hips and get in and out of cuts and change directions. And it's not necessarily quickness; it's more like smoothness. And I actually think that Jalen Polk has this as a trait.
Yeah.
He's not overly explosive, but he's smooth. I look at McMillan, and I see the whole package. I see size, I see explosiveness, I see ability to get in and out of the route. Like Drake London, I think, is probably the fair comp for him.
I mean, you know where I'm at, ceiling comp.
Yeah, I like to be fair.
Right.
I don't like to compare guys to Hall of Famers.
Talking about Mike Evans.
Yeah, so I think Drake London is probably like the fair comparison. But with stable quarterback play, which Drake London hasn't had, he's probably a 1,000-yard receiver every single year out of the gate. Like he's at like 800 the first 2 years of his career with bad quarterback play. So that's not by any means like selling it short. Like that's a walk onto the field and you're a 1,000-yard receiver. I'm really, really high on him so far.
So the big thing for him with me, he's had some games where he's just disappeared.
Yeah.
And it's going to be about consistency. And with young players, that's sometimes what happens. Like young guys, it takes them a while to be consistent. But it's I want to be careful how I say this. When I say mental stuff, like I think the kid, from everything I read about him, like cares about football, cares about all that. It's just the ability to lock in for 60 minutes, week in and week out. That's going to have to get there. I'll tell you this, though. So they have BYU this week, who's a good team, and that'll be interesting, and that's at BYU. Next week, Arizona, Colorado. McMillan was the one guy that really had success against Travis Hunter last year. This game is Travis Hunter's Super Bowl, and it's
for the draft.
It's also Ted McMillan's Super Bowl because it's Travis Hunter. He's not pplaying Michigan.
So we have a long flight next week to London. This is one that I might actually watch in season for you. How do you like that? How do you like them apples?
But it's on Saturday.
That's a big bummer. Okay, maybe I can watch it on Sunday on the way back from the game. See?
Okay.
Do that for you.
I'll tell you what. You want one to watch on the flight?
Yeah.
I got to find
nothing to do for 6 hours.
So
First world problem, I know.
Well, learn. You want to learn a little bit to back up your take. 2 weeks ago, Michigan, Minnesota.
Oh, it's good.
Two good edge rushers against Irsay, and maybe you watch them and you say, you know what? And then you watch that on the flight there.
Yeah.
Maybe you like what you see from Ariante. Flight back, Tet McMillan all over Travis Hunter.
Now I have the take.
And now you have the take and you have the information to back it up. So there's your homework. Minnesota, Michigan from 2 weeks ago.
Okay, you're gonna
good
have to
game
text
too.
me this and remind me this,
Good
but,
game.
Give the raw tackle to Scotty P. Get him in the strike system. Get him in the program. He'll be fine. Right?
I mean, you watch him. You tell me. This is where you come in. I tell you who's on the board. I tell you the generalities of the player. You put the nuts and bolts together.
All right. Melvin is in Tennessee. What's up, Melvin?
What's up, y'all? What's going on?
Hey.
What's up?
Hey, I had a general question. I know I watched Jaden Daniels a lot since he's on my fantasy team, but when I'm watching, of course, our offense, I don't see a lot of people flashing open fast. I know Evan, you just talked about it, but the outlet routes and people like that you can particularly see that's open fast, especially since our line situation is what it is. So I'm looking for this AVP to really, since we're making this change, to really have something when he's making these play calls, to have somebody in these plays able that Drake Maye can get the ball too fast. So since I haven't looked too much into the all 22 version of it and stuff like that, are you seeing anybody, Evan, that within these plays that could be an outlet to get the ball out fast too? If should be one of his first reads.
Yeah.
Even with Jacoby.
Yeah.
You have been able to see that?
Yeah, it's a good question, Melvin. Thanks for the call. I'm just going to let you go and I'll answer it. Yeah, I think the biggest thing, the two biggest guys to me, and that when I hear that, are Pop Douglas, who can get open quick over the middle of the field and be that sort of quick hitting route type of guy. And I still feel like they haven't completely maximized the backs out of the backfield fully, especially Antonio Gibson, who I think is one of the few players that they have on offense that can actually, create an explosive play, has some dynamic movement ability. So when it comes to outlets, I would love to see some of those matchups be used a little bit more, especially when they get man-to-man coverage. I understand that their line hasn't necessarily been great, but try to run a pick play into the flat for one of the backs, or try to run them on a wheel or an angle or something over the middle of the field that can get them out of the backfield. And if teams are going to put 5 or 6 guys on the line of scrimmage, then run an angle route over the middle of the field where the linebacker has to react to him.
Texas?
Yeah, a little Texas route. Have him react to it, right? Because now he's dropping out of the rush to try to cover the guy. Maybe you get him out of position. Maybe you get him off guard. Maybe it's the edge guy that's actually responsible, and now you have the angle. You have the leverage created in the middle of the field. Those are the little things that I'm hoping is more in this offense, especially with Drake, because he likes to throw the middle of the field. He's got the arm for it, and he's got the eyes for it, and he'll get the ball out quickly into those windows if he can.
I'll just add one more player to that list, and I don't necessarily have a massive X's and O's reason to back this up. It's just kind of a football idiom, right? Veteran tight end for a young quarterback, like Hunter Henry, safety blanket.
Yeah, it's a good one. Let's take Todd. What's up, Todd?
Hey, guys. You keep saying that you want him to run the pistol and stuff. Can you kind of describe what the pistol is and maybe other sets or formations that would really help Drake when he's starting? Because I know you guys said that they need to tailor the offense for him. So I just want to kind of get a better idea of what exactly that would look like. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no problem, Todd. I'll talk pistol all day, so I'll take that opportunity. So the pistol is the quarterback.
This is what everybody who saw the clip last week was turning in for. This is what they knew they were getting. This is what they thought they were getting.
The pistol is the quarterback's in the gun. Okay, so he's not under center. He's back. He's in the gun. But instead of the running back being offset to his left or to his right, the running back is directly behind him in the pistol.
Isn't the quarterback like a little further up than he would be in an
Maybe
average shotgun?
slightly.
Yeah.
And he's directly behind him in the pistol. So what it adds is gaps on the line of scrimmage because the back, the simplest way to put it, the back can still go both ways, right? So he can still go to the left or he can still go to the right. Whereas when he's offset, usually you only go the opposite way. So if he's offset right, you're running left. If he's offset left, you're running right. So in the pistol, it allows you to have that opportunity to run the back both ways. The other thing that it allows for is that the quarterback on play action can still turn his back to the defense because he has to turn around and hand the ball to the running back. So he can still turn the back to the defense, which helps you sell play action. So now it's not gun action, it's pistol action. So you still have the quarterback in that whole mechanics of we're turning my back to the defense, we're hiding the ball, we're making you think it's a run. That whole element still exists. So if you want to see what it looks like in practice, like actually go watch it on tape, go watch the Miami Dolphins with Tua. They run pistol at a league high rate. They always have under McDaniel. McDaniel has taken the Kyle Shanahan run game and he's adapted it to the pistol because Tua is more comfortable operating in the pistol than he is under center. Tua's short, right? So like he doesn't see over the line very well. So they have him running out of the pistol instead of running out of under center, which allows them still to run stretch and run bootleg and all that kind of stuff. So it's a way, especially for quarterbacks that are either not comfortable running from under center or in Drake's case, a quarterback that's not experienced running from under center. It's a way for them to still run those mechanics of being under center without actually being under center. I know that was a lot. It's the best way I could do it. But yeah, that's the main thing. So you're still adding the same amount of gaps on the line of scrimmage as you would under center, which is big. Now, final thing with the pistol, not to get everybody too confused.
Now keep going.
The final thing that's really good about the pistol is the option run game. So you can run design quarterback option, whether it's RPO, zone read, whatever the case may be. You run it out of the pistol. That, again, allows for everybody to go in two different directions. So now think about it from a defense's perspective. You are dealing with a lot of conflict. Like there's a lot of problems that's presenting to the defense. So Miami, Baltimore with Lamar Jackson, big pistol team. If you want to look at a team that's like not a great offense that does it, the Tennessee Titans run a lot of pistol with Will Levis and Brian Callahan down there with the Titans. Atlanta has notoriously been a very heavy pistol team, and their offense with Zach Robinson now. So there are teams that the pistol's back.
Yeah,
the pistol's back. It's in vogue. It's going nuts. Everybody loves the pistols.
Whatever happens in college football hits the NFL 5-10 years later.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan, as you can tell. The main other thing, Drake Maye ran a ton of pistol at North Carolina.
Yep.
So they ran a lot of pro-style concept out of the pistol at North Carolina. So that's a nice way to kind of compromise from, we want our offense to run a lot of under center concepts, but our quarterback is not very comfortable doing it. So here's a compromise. So that's what if they do, like I said earlier, if they do that, then I'm going to be on the moon.
Yeah.
I'm going to be out of this earth, out of this entire world. So that's a big one I'm looking for. Okay, we're going to take one last call, and there's a couple of emails and your little game that I want to get to as well. Eric is in San Francisco. What's up, Eric?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey.
Hey, I had a question. I know, Alex and Pelt's play calling has been brought into question kind of more and more over the past few weeks. I'm just wondering, this is not my sport. I actually work in professional basketball, so I've been trying to translate a bunch of this. Like, how hard is it to call plays effectively when you're not necessarily confident in your personnel's ability to execute those plays? That's what I've been trying to suss out, right? How much of it is on sequencing, but how much pressure is being brought to bear because he doesn't actually know whether or not his players will reliably execute what he wants to call. So I'll thank you for the time, and I'll take the answer.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. There's definitely the school of thought that he's searching for answers, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're trying to run something that works here, and they're searching for answers. Every coach is always going to blame it on execution, and every player is always going to blame it on the coach. Like, that's just sort of how it works. Like, when he gets up there, today, I thought he was valid in saying, well, everybody's kind of picking on my play calls at the end of the first half. We had 2 opportunities with guys open to maybe move the ball off of 2nd and 3, and we just didn't hit the throws or didn't win on the route, I think is what he said about 2nd down. And on 3rd down, he said he didn't hit the throw. So those are execution-based errors in their mind, not play-calling errors. We would probably counter with, well, put your players in a position to succeed, right?
And it's also, okay, so he doesn't trust the personnel. He doesn't have the best personnel. You have an $18 million guard.
Yep.
You have a running back you just paid. You have a tight end that's a captain. Like, there are guys you have that you can trust to be involved, and is he doing the most to get those guys involved? I don't think that's been the case.
Okay, a couple more emails, and then we're gonna get to your was it first career start with the Patriots, right? I like it. So I can't find the exact email, but it was a point that I wanted to hit on. Somebody emailed in and said, do we expect Drake Maye to be able to improvise, or do we think that Alex Van Pelt in this offense is going to ask him to really stay in the pocket and, for lack of a better term, as other people like to put it, play quarterback, right, instead of playing off script? I would just say that I maybe am in a minority here with this opinion. I know that. I could care less how we get from point A to point B. I could care less. If he's running for first downs, if he's off-script magic on 3rd down to get the first down, or if he's hitting an in-rhythm dig route, I could really care less. Like, I honestly could not care less. I don't think that's surprising for you because my infatuation with certain quarterbacks that play that way. So it just doesn't really matter to me that much. But I would not want to see training wheels on Drake Maye.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Don't box the kid in too much, and you can't have him turn the ball over left and right.
Right.
And if he's making bad decisions, tell him. But I also don't think you want to limit the tools at his disposal either. You want to let him do, that's part of the reason he was such a high pick, is his ability to do that stuff. If you're going to put him out there and not let him do that, what's the point? Just stick with Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, I understand too that certain people will say, well, that's a lot to put on him to all of a sudden make everything work because he's doing all of it on his own. You drafted him 3rd overall.
No, but that's the point.
That's why you drafted him.
You're putting more on him if you tell him not to improvise.
Yeah.
Let him do what comes naturally to him. That's allowing him to succeed.
Yeah, it just feels to me like when you watch his film at North Carolina, when you watch him in the preseason and in the mop-up duty stuff against the Jets, it almost settles him down when he makes a play like that because that's him, right?
Yeah.
That's him making the play. So when he picked up the 4th down with his legs against the Jets, he hit a couple throws after that. It felt like he kind of got his breath there a little, and he was like, "Okay, I made a play. We're good, right?" Yeah. When he plays at North Carolina, you see that too at times where he'll hit a throw on the move, or he'll scramble or whatever, and then all of a sudden good things will start to happen from there. I think the same thing is true for Mahomes and Allen. I feel like a lot of the time where it's almost sometimes when they're not having their best game, it's a big scramble or it's a big improvised play or something along those lines that gets them going. So I definitely wouldn't hold him back from that one bit. There was another email here. There's a little game before we play your game.
All right.
This is from David in Madrid. He's a big-time listener of ours, so I wanted to shout him out, and I read his email here. So he says that he wants to play a game with a few positions on the roster.
Okay.
And we have to choose if it's easier, better, easier, whichever way you want to put it, to address this next offseason through the draft or through free agency.
Okay.
Slash trade.
I was going to say.
Veteran market or the draft.
Yeah.
Okay. Edge rusher.
I don't know. It's a really thin free agency class, right?
Yeah, it's usually not great.
And it's a decent draft class. I'm going to say draft.
Yeah, I'm going to say draft for edge as well. I feel it's a pretty deep edge class from everything that I've heard in the draft. So maybe a day 2 guy becomes like a Jennings Uche, type for you. I'd be cool with that. So these are his positions of need, not necessarily in order, but middle linebacker.
I'm going to say free agency or trade. There's just not a lot of good. Harold Perkins from LSU is a stud, but he's going to go in the first round. Outside of him, I don't think this is an amazing linebacker. I haven't done a ton of work on linebackers, but very initial take.
Okay. He also just I don't want David to get crapped on. He's saying that he understands left tackle is probably going to be the first round.
Draft. Both tackles. Draft.
Center. I'm a draft a center guy.
It might be easier. It would be easier to get an immediate impact player in free agency, but assuming David Andrews is going to come back next year, which he says is his plan, you can get a guy 4th, 5th round developmental player, sit him for a year, ease him in. It makes more sense in the draft.
Yeah, to me that's a day 3 pick on the draft. If you really like a UDFA, I mean I thought that they liked Charles Turner. That one didn't work out, but like maybe it's along those same lines.
I think this is a decent center class, too.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be a decent center class.
The David Andrews undrafted guy, there's ways to find centers later on in the draft. X receiver.
Free agency, trade.
Yeah.
Trade, really, not free agency, trade.
Are you out on T. Higgins? Because it seems like you're a little out on T. Higgins.
I wouldn't be upset if they added T. Higgins, but I just don't think he has the same ceiling as some of these other guys.
Yeah, I don't think DK Metcalf's leaving Seattle, but
we'll see.
So you would take T. Higgins
if it was October 2021 and I said Tyreek Hill might leave Kansas City, you would have called me a lunatic.
That's true.
So
fair enough.
That's the thing with these guys. You never know.
Okay. Free safety.
Veteran. The safety play in college is weird right now. It's just all box safeties.
Yeah, because they're all quarters-based defenses.
Right. I know there might be a free safety in this draft. I know there's actually 2 really good free safeties in next year's class. So if you can get a bridge guy, great. But
I know that this also might not be a super popular opinion in terms of their team building, but it doesn't feel to me as though they look at safety the same way as some people on the outside look at safety.
No, they don't.
I think I should preface this. We don't know what Jabril Peppers' situation is moving forward. So there's that factor. And by the way, I just want to what Gerard Mayo said the other day is exactly what I would say.
Yep.
Just put that there. Free safety. If they have Peppers, and it's a delicate situation, so that's why I'm kind of trying to be delicate about it. If they have Peppers and Duggar together, then I think they feel really good about that being their starting safety tandem, even though neither one of them is like a true, Devin McCourty center fielder. I don't necessarily think that they look at that as like a major need if they have both those guys in the mix. I actually think they really like the way it's put together right now with Jalen Hawkins as like the third guy.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily look at that one as a screaming need. All right. Let's wrap it up with Drake Maye where we started.
So, this is kind of the take I had earlier, Evan, which was like my expectations aren't super high for Drake Maye on Sunday.
Yep.
Still think he absolutely can be the face of the franchise, but you look at just real quick for context, Caleb Williams' debut, 14 of 29, 93 yards, 2 picks. Jaden Daniels, 17 of 24, 184 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, did have 2 rushing touchdowns. Bo Nix, 26 of 42, 138, no touchdowns, 2 picks, did have a rushing touchdown.
Yeah,
so
he was kind of bad in Bo Nix.
Obviously, these are guys that, are now being talked about very highly. There is some growth that comes with it. And I went back and obviously, different quarterbacks, different eras, but it's like, all right, what did other Patriots quarterbacks do in their debuts and what's the expectation? So obviously it goes more than the stat line. We're going to have to break down the film, but I'm just going to give you the stat line. You react to what you think your takeaway would be if that was Drake's first game.
Yep.
And then you try to guess who the quarterback is. I'll start you off with kind of an easy one. 11 of 19, 103 yards, rushing touchdown.
Are you going to tell me who it is?
No, you got to guess. That's part of the game.
Oh, I had to guess. And this is Patriots quarterbacks.
Yeah. So, and this is Cam Newton's debut. He threw for like 400 yards. I tweeted this out and people got mad at me. I didn't talk about Cam Newton. Cam Newton's Patriots debut, he'd been in the NFL for a decade.
Right.
This is NFL debut with the Patriots.
Read me the stat line again.
11 to 19.
Yeah.
103 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, rushing touchdown.
Jacoby Brissett.
Yes.
Yeah. Ironically, against the Houston Texans. Yeah.
So if Drake completes, about 50% of his passes, 100 yards, runs one in, doesn't turn the ball over, how do you feel?
Do they win 27-0 like they did then?
We're just talking about his performance. Honestly, I think the outcome is irrelevant. Like the final score, unless he gets a 2-minute drill, we evaluate him there. Like, how does he do? But Sure.
I would be a little underwhelmed with that, only because part of the reason why they're making the switch is to add more to the passing game, and that's more of the same with the passing game.
All right. You're also going to notice the theme here that first game production hardly indicative of what the player becomes.
Yep.
14 of 34.
Yep.
173 yards, touchdown, throws 2 picks.
Drew Bledsoe.
Nope. Further back.
Jesus. You know I'm not that old. Steve Grogan?
Yes.
Yeah.
How you feel? 14 of 34, 173 yards, touchdown, 2 picks.
I actually think that's pretty realistic because of 9 for 30 last week for Josh Allen against this defense. 2 picks is tough. I'm probably still a little down on that performance.
So I'll give you the one I'm expecting. This is the guy, like when I look at all these stat lines, when I put and you can read this, I wrote about this morning at 985sportshub.com, and I look at all these stat lines. This is the one that I think will end up being the closest to what Drake Maye does.
Okay.
14 of 30, 148 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick.
Scott Zolak.
No.
Drew Bledsoe.
Yes.
Okay. I knew it was
Drew
one
Bledsoe.
of those. I knew it was one of those two.
They lost to the Bills. 14, right around 50%, not 200 yards, but maybe gets close.
Yeah.
I think he does throw a couple touchdowns, but there's going to be a turnover in there. He's going to turn the ball over. How'd you feel about that stat line?
Read it to me again.
14 of 30, 148 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. I know it's the stat line could be deceiving, but I think that would be okay.
All right. 24-33.
Yeah.
264 yards,
Whoa.
1 touchdown.
Mac Jones.
Nope.
Scott Zolak.
Nope.
Not?
Nope.
I know one of them is Zoe.
We haven't done Zoe yet. I'm going to you keep guessing Zoe, so I'm like, all right, I'll do Zoe later. More modern.
Brady?
Nope.
Who is Jimmy Garoppolo?
Jimmy G. 24-33.
Wow, it took me 7-1 on that one.
24-33, 264, and a touchdown.
Yeah, Jimmy was great.
If he shows up like Jimmy in Arizona, now he's
Jimmy
then got to
was
make
really
it
good
through
that
the
night.
next week and stay healthy.
Yeah.
But if
Do you remember Jimmy the next week in the first half had 3 tutties?
Yeah,
it was unreal.
He took the most unnecessary hit, and then that was it.
Yeah.
All right, couple more. 20 of 29, 261, 2 touchdowns, and a pick.
Mac Jones.
Nope.
God dang it. We already did Jimmy. We already did Brissett. Brady.
Nope.
You're really throwing me off now.
You kept guessing him.
Zoe.
Arguably, Zoe had one of the best debuts for a Patriots quarterback ever.
Zoe had swag, man. Zoe was out there ripping it. He
On
didn't
the
care.
road, beats the Colts. 20 of 29, 261, 2 touchdowns, and a picks. Realistically, obviously that Jimmy stat line's great. This is a realistic high end for me for Drake May.
269 yards?
261.
261.
20 of 29, 261, 2 touchdowns.
So
and a pick.
that would be great.
All right. 6 of 15, 217 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick.
Tom Brady.
No, you're not going to guess who this is.
Rohan Davey.
Nope. I don't think Rohan Davey ever started a game for the Patriots. It's a first-round pick.
It's a first-round pick?
Yeah.
Jim Plunkett.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
6 for 15, 127, 2 touchdowns, and a pick.
Do you know how many people have called in that are older Patriots fans and been doing the same thing they did to Jim Plunkett?
That's why I included him here. That would be... that would be wild because he threw 2 touchdowns. But all right, 2 more. 29 of 39, 281 yards and a touchdown.
The GOAT. That's got to be Brady.
Nope. 29 of 39, and this is my point. It's not indicative. 29 of 39, 281 and a touchdown. Before you guess who it is, if that's Drake May's stat line, 29 of 39, 281 touchdown, no turnovers. How are you feeling?
Feeling pretty good.
People doing backflips down Route 1.
Mac Jones.
We're doing backflips down Route 1 for Mac Jones' debut.
So I didn't know exactly what his stats were, clearly, because I just guessed wrong. I didn't know exactly what his stats were, but what I did remember from that game was that Mac Jones in that game had 4 or 5 really good balls, really, really high-level throws. And they didn't win the game, right? They lost to Miami. I believe it was
Damian Harris fumbled,
Yeah, week 1.
17-16.
They didn't win the game. They only scored 16 points. It wasn't like he lit the world on fire. But we came out of that game with 4 or 5 throws where we were these were real deal quarterback throws, franchise quarterback type plays. So just because maybe it's in my time covering the team, so I remember it the best. But Jimmy G in Arizona is another really good example of like a peak to me.
Yeah.
But Mac Jones in that game feels somewhat realistic that he makes like 4 or 5 really good plays, but they end up losing a close one. And like the production isn't all that much better, but you just come away from the game feeling really good about the quarterback.
And this is kind of my point. You're not looking for the overall performance. You're looking for individual things you can hang your hat on. All right, last one.
Well, we know who this is now.
Well, all right, so just tell me how you would feel. Tell me what you're going to say, what your opening take is going to be next week if this is Drake Maye's first game. 13 of 23, 168 yards, no touchdowns, no picks.
Not great, no. And I'm assuming that's Brady.
That's Tom Brady. They won 44-13 with that stat line.
That's because he's the GOAT.
No, it's because Antoine Smith
had
the game of his life.
The defense had to play
and
it differently.
Defense,
And, the defense, they lightened the box because Brady was out there. They knew he could sling it, and the whole thing changed.
It's because Ty Law, Otis Smith.
I loved Otis Smith.
I think Terrell Buckley had a pick in that game. They got after Peyton Manning.
I was a big Otis Smith truther. Otis Smith is a big part of that team.
No, you're absolutely right. And obviously Antoine Smith ran all over that Colts team. I think Bruschi had a pick in that game too. They tortured Peyton Manning in that game. So now I got to look, but so you get kind of the point of the experiment there, which is
nobody great, nobody over 300 yards or.
I think Zoe had or Jimmy had the most. Antoine Smith ran 22 times for 94 yards and 2 touchdowns. They got picks from Roman Pfeiffer, Otis Smith, Ty Law.
Roman Pfeiffer is another one of those underrated Patriot guys.
And Bobby Hamilton, Riddick Parker, and Anthony Pleasant all had sacks.
I feel like.
And Roman Pfeiffer forced the fumble. Roman Pfeiffer had a day.
Roman Pfeiffer was underrated.
Good player, yeah.
Good football player.
But anyway,
so
Brady
obviously
was along for the ride.
Probably Jimmy G against Arizona is the peak.
Yeah.
Out of all of those, I'm sorry, Zoe. No offense to Zoe. Zoe played great too. I saw some of the highlights. Somebody posted them from the Sports Hub.
Those are the only 2 over. Oh, and Mac Jones are the only 3 over 200 yards.
Yeah, but in my time covering the team, because I wasn't here yet for Jimmy either. My time covering the team, I know it's only been a couple, it's like Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi, basically. But Mac Jones's debut against Miami, like I said earlier, there are 4 or 5 throws that we'll post on Twitter and will go all around the world that everybody, oh my God, look at, great throw here by Drake Maye. But we'll probably get on the show on Tuesday and Paul Perillo will tell me, well, they only scored 16 points. It really wasn't great. They scored 16 points in week 1 against Cincinnati too, right? And that sort of thing. So I'm all for that, though. Just show me some flashes. Just show me some promise.
So you don't want the 44-13 win with 13 completions?
I mean, I'll take it. But is that going to happen?
Well, if what happens next happens again, then I'll take that all day.
Like you like to say, is Sidney Sweeney going to show up to your house tonight, or are we going to be on realistic here? Which one are we going with?
Fair enough.
All right, that does it here. As you can tell, we're excited here for Drake Maye's debut, and Alex and I will both be at the game on Sunday. We'll be back next Thursday, same time, same place, to break down Drake Maye's first start in the NFL. Actually, it might not. We have to check on the time because I'm going to London, so we'll have to figure that out. But I do think we're taking the red eye on Thursday night, so we might be able to still leave the show here. But I don't know that for a fact. But before we sign off, football season is here, and Sullivan Tire and Auto Service kicks things off in a big way with our exclusive Go Pats tire sale. Now through October 31st, score big with incredible savings on Bridgestone tires. Save $100 instantly with the purchase of 4 eligible Bridgestone tires. Bridgestone, the official tire of the New England Patriots. See sullivantire.com for complete details. And easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. Go Patriots, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.